Holy crap.
People persist in doubting the evidence.
Don't run and hide. Don't be afraid. Don't turn away any longer. The truth will set you free.
If the game is rigged, change the game.
You're listening to Jimmy Church, Fade to Black.
Game changer, game changer, game changer, game changer. The Game Changer Radio Network.
Recruiting all of our artists towards Jimmy Church.
And now, your host, the captain of conspiracy, the prince of paranormal. This ain't your daddy's radio network show. This is Jimmy Church, Fade to Black.
What's up? Fade to Black. Fade to Black. Bespoke radio for the masses. What is up, everybody? Today's Tuesday, March 31st, 90 days into the new year, 275 days left. We are live from the City of Angels studios right here in downtown Burbank, California. COA Vapor. COA Vapor, makers of the Fade to Black e-juice. Fader Loops. Yeah, Saturday morning cartoons. That's what I'm talking about. Just go to COA, the banner, right now at jimmychurchradio.com. You can use the promo code Jimmy for the Fader Not special. Get you some. It's tasty. It's good. We got some cool new flavors coming up here too. All right, so go check it out. COA Vapor. Also, you can follow them on Twitter. COA Vapor at COA Vapor. For KJCR and the Game Changer Network, I am your oh-so-humble host, Jimmy Church. KGRA, the planet, 3 years young, taking over the world. That's it. Big proud salute to the men and women in uniform all around the world fighting the good fight for us. For without them, there is no me, there is no you, there is no us, and you cannot hear me right now. Think about it. Really think about it. All right. Let's go. Man, what a great show last night, huh? Giorgio Tsoukalos. He was bringing it last night. Giorgio did not play around. That was awesome. He doesn't do it often. He does not do that often. And for him to come on here, for you Fader Knots, just said it all. Loves you guys. Got a special email today from him. I should read it. Short. Said, Jimmy, thank the Fader Knots. That was amazing. I said, yeah, it was. It was great. It was great. He said the calls, the email, Twitter, the questions, it was all amazing. I want to do it again. There you go. All right. Giorgio. Special thanks to everybody. All right. Let's go. I did another watch porn. Yeah. Couldn't help it. You know, I just kind of looked down at my wrist and, you know, settling in here at the dungeon. And I just looked down and went, you know what? There's another cool one. Maybe somebody out there will appreciate this. And that was a gift from Rita a couple of years ago. One of those things, you know, she just said, hey, you know that watch? You know that watch that you had your eyes on? It'll be here Tuesday. I was like, what? Which one? I didn't know. And she's a real woman, man. She remembers all that stuff that us guys forget. You know, us guys are victims of that, man. We got short memories. You know, always remember when your woman is eyeing a purse, you guys are shopping and she sees the shoes she has to buy on her own. They got to try those on. But when she's eyeing something, take note, man. Take note and go and buy it. That's what you do. That's what you do. I don't do it often enough either. So there you go. But that's that Invicta. It's a very special watch, and it means a lot to me. And so when I looked down at it today, I was like, you know what? That's some good watch porn right there. That watch means a lot. So that I got that up there. If you want to see it, just go over to Twitter at JChurchRadio. It's up. I think it's on Facebook too as well. So there you go. All right. It's one of those watches. The back looks better than the front. Let's get this show cracking. I'm only saying what I'm saying about the watch because I just posted it and it just tweeted and it just went out. So, there's a story behind everything. Everything. Jeffrey K. just tweeted, Deep Blue. I'm with you. I don't have a Deep Blue yet. And I'm waiting for the right one, the right Deep Blue. But yes, great, great, great watches. All right. Man, what is this? Turning into a watch show. Oh, I wanted to say this. Welcome to everybody, by the way, listening all around the world, all across the United States. This is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. And hither and thither, to and fro, back and forth, up and down, east and west, north and south, far and near. Welcome, everybody. To all the new listeners that are dialing in tonight for the first time, this is a long-form conversation show. This is a show where you just sit and disconnect for 3 hours. And one of the things that I love, and I can't wait till this post to YouTube, one of the things that I love is when somebody posts to YouTube and goes, man, this podcast, incorrect, this podcast, man, it just, he does the news, he talks about birthdays, it just, they don't get it. They don't get it. This is a live show. It's a live show. It happens every single night. That's why there's news, and that's why we talk and we hang out. So all of you new listeners, this is live. It's 3 hours of disconnect and learning. That's what you're going to do. So just get comfortable. Turn off the phone. Well, the one that you don't want to be interrupted with. Turn it off. Get comfortable. Turn up the speakers. Turn up the radio. Whatever you're listening on, get comfortable and just absorb, because that's what this is. All right? You're going to have a great time. I promise. Come hang out with us on Twitter tonight at JChurch Radio. Tonight we have Joel Garbon with us. New Energy, 0 Points. Got a great book out. We'll talk about all of that tonight. And also, Joel, at Joshua Tree, at Contact in the Desert, we are doing a panel on Saturday at 5 o'clock at the big amphitheater. And I'll be hosting the panel. And you can go and look. You can go to Contact in the Desert, go to schedule, go to the amphitheater, and look on Saturday, 5 o'clock. The panel is there. But I believe it's Richard Dolan, it's Mike Barrett, Steve Murillo, Nick Redfern, Joel Garbon, and William Brown. And there's a seventh. Can somebody post who is actually on that panel? I keep forgetting who the seventh is. There is a seventh. And so there you go. It's going to be a great panel. Joel will be with us there at Joshua Tree. And it's UFOs and Physics is the panel. It's going to be great. Oh, man. And if you haven't won tickets to Contact, there still are tickets available. Go to jimmychurchradio.com, scroll down. It's right there. There's a banner, tickets for Contact in the Desert, May 29th through the 31st in Joshua Tree, California. Okay, all day today, by the way, Faders was posting the new Fader gear, Get Not. I actually like that. Get Not. So just go to www.faders.org and check out the Fader gear. You can also go to jimmychurchradio.com. Scroll down. There's a banner right there. Fader gear. Go check it out. And wow. Fader gear. I can't wait till Contact in the Desert and all of you Fadernauts are running around in Fade to Black. I want the gear on. And Wowo and I were talking last night. Going to do some crew shirts. Who's going to get the crew shirts? The shirts that have Fade to Black on the front and then right on the back, right across the shoulders. Crew. Yeah. I can't wait. Fade to Black crew. Who's going to get the crew shirts? All right. 3 weeks ago, yeah, we did it with KGRA, but yesterday was KGRA's 3rd year on the air. That's right. March 30th, 3 years ago, KGRA went on the air, started broadcasting for the first time. Look at KGRA today. KGRA today, seriously, taking over the world. I am so proud of our syndication, our merging of the Partridge Family. No, that's not it. The Brady Bunch, Partridge Family. Same thing, right? I guess. Merging of the families, and it's just been so synchronous and so wonderful. And I just got to drive this home. Happy birthday, KGRA. Many, many more to come. All right? Please help us get the word out. I want everybody to be aware. April 10th, Hangar 1 is going to premiere Season 2 on History Channel. April 10th. It's 10 p.m. Eastern and Pacific. We're going to have a few people over at Casa Day Church, too, that night. It's going to be a lot of fun, but I just want everybody to be aware, okay? Let's support. They have done us the upgrade. Let's show them what's up. Okay, let's just crank it on April 10th. April 17th, whatever. April 10th is the night. All right, let's get the show cracking. Let's go. Today, Angus Young. Angus friggin' Young is 60 years old. How many times have you seen AC/DC? Now, his pictures, yeah, he's getting up there. He's 60. He's 60. Been breathing that oxygen on the side of the stage for 40, 50 years. They've been together. But 60 years old. And I got to tell you, he still gets it. He still gets it. AC/DC still rocks. I can't believe how many albums in a row they have cranked out without any clankers. They're all good. They're all good. Still, for me, I got to say, you know what? Let's light up Twitter here. Let's do it now before I get through the rest of this. We've got, okay, I get it. Back in Black. That was my senior year in high school. Back in Black ruled. You couldn't walk around with a ghetto blaster in high school in 1981 without having AC/DC Back in Black, that cassette tape in cranking. That's it. You weren't allowed to play anything else. And so for me, Back in Black, ooh, Brandon, look at that. Whoa, what is that? What is that? Is that a tag? Is that a taggish? Is that a taggy? Is that a taggart? You gotta, it's a Casio. Wow, looks like a taggy. All right, Brandon. Yeah, if you got any watches, we're posting pictures on Twitter right now of watches. So take a picture, post it at JChurchRadio, hashtag F2B. I want to know what you guys are wearing. Yeah, TNT, Highway to Hell. I'm with you. Highway to Hell. Man, and it just keeps on going. Thunderstruck was great, if you think about it. Anyway, happy birthday, Angus Young. Christopher Walken today, 72 years old. Christopher Walken. And, man, I was thinking Joe Dirt. So many great movies. Deer Hunter. Ooh, man. So many great movies. And how about the watch scene in Pulp Fiction? Huh? Could be one of the best. Your father carried this watch around. Shoved up. Ian McGregor today, 44. Made the list because of, well, a lot of different things, but Big Fish. Saw that in the theater with Whoa, we cried our eyes out. Big Fish. Amazing movie. Ewan McGregor, 44. And actress Shirley Jones, 81. That's right. Mama Partridge. Mama Partridge. The Partridge Family. Shirley Jones. Herb Alpert today is 80 years old. He co-founded A&M Records with his partner Jerry Moss. He achieved 5 number 1 albums on the Billboard charts and received 8 Grammy Awards. Also sold 14 platinum albums, 15 gold albums. Happy birthday, Herb Alpert. Now, and A&M Records, it's closed. I suppose A&M is still a record company, but the big A&M Records is now Jim Henson's Muppet Studios on the corner of La Brea and Sunset. One of the cool things when you were a kid in the 80s, when all those record deals were going down and you would drive around Hollywood, right there on the corner was A&M Records. It was right there. And you would look and you're like, man, if I could only get in those doors, man. Let them know I'm here. I could get a record deal too. It's right there, A&M Records. And now it's Henson. It's Henson Studios. It's the times are a-changing, as they say. This is Fade to Black. When I come back after the break, it is all the news that you know nothing about. This is Fade to Black, Game Changer Network, KGRA, The Planet. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, Joel Garbon, free energy, 0 point definitions, what's going on, where is the technology, earth-changing stuff tonight on the show. It's going to be great. Going to take calls too, 323-825-5045. Skype in, Fade to Black 14. Shoot me an email to jimmy@jimmychurchradio.com. Follow us on Twitter right now. Become a Fade or Not, @JChurchRadio. Be back right after this. Stay with us.
You're listening to Jimmy Church, Fade to Black.
Fade to Black will now pause for alien identification.
The station that talks the net. KGRA Radio.
What's up, revolutionaries? It's me, Jimmy Church. Do you have an IRS or state tax issue? Well, I did, and I called national tax experts. My problems were fixed, done, fini, and man, I gotta tell you, it was a relief. National Tax Experts are a recognized tax office that services clients in all 50 states. It doesn't matter where you live. Give them a call. I'm telling you, they take the time to understand each and every client's individual financial status as well as their financial goals. And that's exactly what you need, my brother, when you're taking on the evil 3-letter. So, seriously, give them a call today at 1-877-909-5444. Again, 1-877-909-5444. Or go check out their website, www.nattaxexperts.com. That's NATTAXEXPERTS.com. Tell them Jimmy sent you.
This is KJCR at JimmyChurchRadio.com.
All right, everybody, welcome back. Fade to Black. Tonight we have Joel Garbon. The call-in number is 323-825-5045. Skype in, Fade to Black 14. Tomorrow night, Spencer Cross, Monoatomic Gold, and the Great Pyramid of Giza. Time. Time is such an important thing to me. I want to be aware of it all. The reason is we don't have much. We only have so many days on planet Earth. Take advantage of every minute. Be cool, be nice, be funny, give, take a little, give, love your friends, love your family, love your country, love your job, hopefully, because time is so important. And so, therefore, I'm a big watch guy, not a clock guy. I have the studio clock here in the studio. It just bugs me because I run out of time every night, but we've got that. And then in front of me on all of these monitors, there's a computer clock on each one of those. So I have 4 of those staring me in the face. You have cell phones with clocks on it. And these days, the watch has kind of fallen a little bit out of flavor because you have time staring at you all the time. You know, it's just everywhere. It's everywhere. But I think it's caused a new revolution of mechanical automatic watches. They're such works of art. Whether I don't care if it's Chinese, Japanese, or Swiss, Russian, German. The automatic watch is a work of art. So there you go. We're posting pictures of our watches tonight. And take a picture of what's on your wrist right now. They're flashing by. It's amazing what some of you are wearing. Pretty impressive. Look at this. Seiko Kinetic. Wow, nice. Yeah, keep taking pictures. I want to see it. So take a picture of what's on your wrist right now. Some of these are absolutely amazing. And follow us on Twitter. And that's it. That's my statement, man. Watches. I haven't done this ever. 2 years on the air now. I haven't done watches ever. This is kind of cool. It's kind of fun. And I'm glad that everybody appreciates the watch and time as much as I do. All right. Let's get to the news that you know nothing about. Video found in the wreckage on a French mountainside shows the nightmarish final seconds of Germanwings Flight 9525. Taken on a cell phone, the video was so chaotic that it was hard to identify people, but the sounds of screaming passengers made it perfectly clear that they were aware of what was about to happen to them. According to the French magazine Paris Match, which obtained the video along with the German newspaper Bild. One can hear voices and cries of "My God" in several languages. Metallic banging can also be heard more than 3 times. Perhaps it's the pilot trying to open the cockpit door. Towards the end, after a heavy shake, stronger than the others, the screaming intensifies, and then there's nothing. Lufthansa, meanwhile, announced that the co-pilot, Andreas Lubitz, told his Lufthansa flight training school in 2009 that he had had previous episodes of severe depression. I think those days are over without some kind of psychiatric background checks on all pilots. Could be a big smoke screen. I don't know what's going on with this whole thing. It seems the whole thing just seems weird from the word go. Okay. The Iranian military observation aircraft flew within 50 yards twice of an armed U.S. Navy helicopter over the Persian Gulf earlier this month, sparking concern that top Iranian commanders might not be in full control of local forces. An MH-60R Seahawk helicopter, it approaches the flight deck of the aircraft carrier USS Carl Vinson, and the MH-60R helicopter approaches the flight deck, and while it's doing it, the Iranian observer aircraft buzzed it twice. Came within 50 yards, officially calling it an unsafe maneuver, and could have really caused some serious trouble on all kinds of fronts. It also surprised U.S. commanders because in recent months, Iranian forces have been conducting exercises and operations in the region in a very professional manner. The incident took place as the U.S. and other world powers are meeting with Iran and Switzerland to negotiate this deal. Today's the preliminary deadline. It's not the dead deadline, and they've extended it until tomorrow. The real deadline, apparently, is June 30th. I think they've got us hyped up over a lot of nothing so far, but we will see. The Iranian Y-12 aircraft approach. The Iranian aircraft made two passes at the helicopter coming in within 50 yards, and then the MH-60R helicopter took off in a non-offensive way. Didn't do anything to provoke any actions, and chilled. Representatives of the International Raelian Movement, the IRM, are officially handing over to the White House and the United Nations Council of Foreign Affairs this week a project file for the construction of an embassy that would welcome extraterrestrial civilizations back to Earth. Copies of the file will also be given to the U.S. State Department, to French, German, and other European foreign ministers, and to many other government officials around the world. And I'm quoting here, the request of the Raelian Movement is for approximately 5 square kilometers, 1.93 square miles, of land on which to construct the embassy, plus full extraterritoriality rights for it and the host country and a pre-established no-fly zone for the airspace surrounding it, said Daniel Turcotte, the IRM's diplomatic agent for the ET Embassy project, in a statement released today by the IRM. In addition, demonstrations and other publicity events will be held in several countries around the world today, which Raelians call Embassy Day. Scientists say they have managed to disable the production of the powerful substance in onions which make you cry. House Foods Group said in a press release that they bombarded the brown bulb with irradiating ions in a process that drastically reduces the level of a certain enzyme that is key to making you cry. A spokesman said no decision has yet been made on whether they would commercialize their tear-free onions. The company's researchers won the IG Nobel Prize, an award handed down to honor achievements organizers consider unintentionally funny, in 2013 for their discovery of the biochemical process behind how onions make people cry. Well, the MOD, the Ministry of Defense, promised to release 18 UFO files at the end of last year, but they have failed to materialize. Then they said they were going to do it this year. Now, last month, it got a little heated. That's right, in the House of Lords. After Lord Black of Brentwood tabled a question to the House of Lords last month, the MOD admitted it had not yet handed the cache over to the National Archives for release. It blamed, and I'm quoting here, additional processing requirements, end quote, for the delay, and said the files would be released maybe around 2016. And in answer to Lord Black's question, Lord Astor of Hever, Under Secretary of State and Lord Spokesman on Defense, said the schedule for transfer of the files from the Ministry of Defense to the National Archives consists of around 10,000 files per annum. The schedule is continually updated to take into account changes in priority and progress on different record sets. 18 files. How many pages? I don't know. 100 pages in a file. Not that big of a deal. Could be that many. I don't know. But they're dancing, aren't they? Nick Pope was on the show last month saying, you know what? Yeah, fine. I don't know what's in it. You know, it may not be anything that big of a deal. Could be. I don't know. Might be Rendlesham. I expect not. But why the delay? Now 2016? We're halfway through 2015, and just when we're expecting it, here we go again. Check this out. In another 2 decades. Now, this is what I'm about to read you right now. This is what the mass media, this is what you ignore in the mass media when you read stuff and hear stuff like this. Okay? Are you ready? Sit down. Here you go. In another 2 decades, rare commodities may become seriously scarce. According to Goldman Sachs, the world has about 20 years' worth each of known mineable reserves of gold, diamonds, and zinc. Platinum, copper, and nickel reserves only have about 40 years or less left. BS meter, is it going off? The combination of very low concentrations of metals in the Earth's crust and very few high-quality deposits means some things are truly scarce, said, are you ready? Eugene King, European metals and mining analyst at Goldman Sachs. Gold has been used as a measure of wealth for more than 4,000 years, I'm quoting here, as the ancient Egyptians soon worked out that gold was not only shiny and heavy, but rare, he said. All told, their relativity and scarcity and the market's belief that new discoveries will be limited is what drives the price of these super rare commodities. Making gold rarer still, production of gold may also hit a peak this year. A Gold Corp slide showed that last year revealed a gold mining industry forecast that 2015 would be the year that production would peak in the mining industry. Now, you got to go back and look at the source. I'm not buying a word of it. Not buying a word. Neither should you. Don't invest in gold. Nobody cares. The Thai military. There's plenty of it. You know how many diamond mines there are in Russia right now? Just stacked. Do you know how many? Do you have any idea how many vaults in Russia right now are stuffed 100 yards long, 15 feet tall vaults stuffed with diamonds that they can't sell? It'll kill the market. So many diamonds, we got them coming out just everywhere, every orifice. They're everywhere. And they're forced to hold them back. They can't sell them. Don't ever buy into this. A Thai military court on Tuesday jailed a man for 25 years for posting pictures on his Facebook page deemed insulting to Thailand's monarchy, and one of the toughest such sentences in recent years. That's right. 25 years for just commenting on the king or the queen or the heir to the throne or regent in Thailand. He got 50 years. They cut it in half. It was 10 years for each picture. Think about it. Talk about freedom of speech. I love it. That's why we live here. How bad is it in the Ukraine? Man, I'm running late. I'm sorry to everybody. I'm running late. That's what I get. I got too much cool stuff here. How bad is it in the Ukraine? When the guards fled the prison in the city of Debaltseve in Ukraine, most of the inmates chose to stay in the prison with quotes like, "It's safer here. There's minefields out there. I'll stay until my sentence is up." They don't want to split. Who's guarding the prison? The inmates. And that is all of the news. How bad can it really be in the Ukraine out there where you just, the door is wide open. You can walk and you don't. Hey, man, I'll guard you. Then when it's my bedtime, you guard me. This is Fade to Black, bespoke radio for the masses. When I come back after the break, Joel Garbon will be joining us. Follow us on Twitter at JChurchRadio. Shoot me an email, Jimmy@jimmychurchradio.com. Stay with us. I'll be back right after this.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
The station that talks the net. KGRA Radio.
Hi, this is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black. Today, everybody, the Fadernauts and planet Earth is vaping, and I'm very proud to announce our very own e-juice. When we were approached by City of Angels Vapor about Fade to Black e-juice, I wanted to make sure that it was the very best and that the flavors were something that I could create myself, and we did just that. Introducing Fade to Black Fader Loops. This will take you right back to Saturday morning cartoons and your favorite bowl of fruity, loopy cereal. Just click on the banner or go to www.coavapor.com. Enter the promo code Jimmy for the Fader Not special. That's www.coavapor.com. Go back, Lee Tappy.
Imagine no longer being tied down to your computer, but having the freedom to take live talk radio with you anywhere you go. TalkStream Live introduces our first ever iPhone application. The talk shows you follow now follow you, and your iPhone is now the fastest and easiest way to stay connected to the best talk radio on the internet. Let TalkStream Live transform the way you listen to radio. Listen to live talk shows 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Mobile talk radio from TalkStream Live. Now available in the iTunes App Store.
This is Toby Kebbell. You're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com. Don't hurt me, Jimmy. I'm only little.
Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier.
And this is Ari Gold.
We're the Honey Brothers.
Yes.
We're of the Honey Brothers. Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier.
And I'm Ari Gold.
We're the Honey Brothers.
And you're listening to Jimmy Church.
The Revolution.
Attention, all Fadernauts. Studio Dome has a special deal on their SD1 Bluetooth speaker. Just go to jimmychurchradio.com, click on their banner, enter the promo code Jimmy, and you get $40 off and free shipping on the SD1. It's voice activated, comes with a USB antenna, cables, and a carry bag. Never listen to your phone, tablet, or laptop speakers ever again. It's the only way to listen to Fade to Black. That's jimmychurchradio.com, Studio Dome banner, promo code Jimmy, Gobekli Tepe. All right, everybody, welcome back. Fade to Black. Tonight, we have Joel Garbon. Call-in numbers 323-825-5045. You can also Skype in Fade to Black 14. We're going to open up the phone lines in the third segment. Tomorrow night, Spencer Cross will be joining us. Mono Atomic Gold and the Great Pyramid of Giza. And tonight, 0 Point Energy, free energy. It's the talk of shows like this everywhere around the world. Movies have been made, documentaries, and tonight I'm very excited to have Joel with us on the show. He received a Bachelor of Science degree in Applied Science from Miami University, Oxford, Ohio. He has worked for more than 30 years as an international industrial science consultant and educator within the chemical, pulp, paper, and water treatment industries. He is the inventor and developer of several successful commercial technologies used within these industries, and he co-authored with investigative journalist Gene Manning the award-winning book Breakthrough Power: How Quantum Leap New Energy Inventions Can Transform the World. You can check everything out at their website, www.breakthroughpower.net, which chronicles the challenges, opportunities, and the progress in new technology in the energy field. I would like to welcome to the program Joel Garbon. Joel, how are you tonight, sir?
Hi, Jimmy. Just great. Thank you for having me on.
Man, it's great to have you here, but you and I are going to be doing a panel in about a month and a half out at Contact in the Desert. You excited about that?
Yeah, I've always wanted to go to that event. I've never been to Joshua Tree, so I think that's going to be a great treat.
Just wear shorts. The warning has happened now. Wear shorts. Just wear. If you don't wear shorts and you don't have them, it doesn't matter. White legs are allowed, man. Go and get yourself some shorts. Oh, man. Last year at Contact is so funny because I'm only saying this because it's your first time there. Last year, Don Schmidt, and we all know Don. We love Don. He's great. And everybody there, all the you looked around, and everybody that had been there the previous year was wearing shorts. It doesn't matter if you were David Wilcock or if you were just an attendee, right? Everybody's got shorts and carrying a bottle of water. Myself and Don Schmidt are dressed head to toe in black, right? I mean, whoa.
Well, I don't know that anyone's going to want to see my legs. They're pretty pale.
Yeah, you know what? It doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. You know what? Pale legs and shorts means smart guy. That's all they're going to see. So I'm just heed the warning now, man. Just heed it now. Yeah. But it's going to be great, and I'm really looking forward to it. The panel with us is strong, and it's going to be a lot of fun. And it's at.
I hear they get a really great crowd, a large crowd.
Yes, it's big. It's big. It's big, and it's on a lot of acreage too. And one of the cool things for everybody that's listening to the show for the first time right now, and you may not know about Contact in the Desert, just go click on our banners, or just go to contactinthedesert.com and check it out. But it's not one big room where you have speakers, which is fine, at most places and how they do it. But, it's one room and one speaker after another. That's not what's going on here. This is more like Coachella or a big rock event, in that you've got 2, 3, 4, 5 speakers speaking at the same time at different venues. So, you may not want this, but so you have options in front of you. And it's on a lot of acreage, so it's an event, and people are walking around, and there's things to do, and it's just really, really cool. Who are you going to go see? Well, I was thinking about going over and seeing Dolan, but Barbara Harris is over here. Linda Moulton Howe is speaking back. That I don't, you know what I mean. So you have choices. It's really cool. You're going to dig it.
Yeah, it's going to be tough in a lot of cases to know who to go see, and it sounds like there's a lot of headliners at this one.
Yeah, and they all hang out too as well. So it's just you're walking around and they're taking pictures and talking to people and hearing stories. So you can walk up to anybody. They're all there, and it's just. Oh, man, it's kind of like Haight-Ashbury in 1968, if you know what I mean. It's pretty dang cool, man. It's pretty dang cool. So, okay. Now, your background, by the way, Miami of Ohio, great basketball school. Did you go to the games?
A few of them, yeah. I mean, Miami's kind of had its ups and downs as far as sports. They've had some good football teams. Ben Roethlisberger, Steelers quarterback, he's a Miami grad.
Yep.
And it's got a good tradition.
Yeah, it's a good. I'm from that area, and Miami of Ohio, man. I was born in Chicago, but Indianapolis, and my parents live in Columbus now. They're actually moving back to Naptown. They're moving back to India. I'm excited about that. So, so that whole area where you have Miami of Ohio, you have Ohio State, you have Cincinnati, you have of course Michigan State, IU, Purdue, Notre Dame, Illinois State, Kentucky, Kentucky State, Louisville. So you have. Right there is a pocket full of gnarly competitiveness when it comes to their sports, man.
Yeah, that's true.
They take it real serious. So, but what and we're going to get into. This is a free-form conversation. We're going to get into what is free energy and what is 0 point energy. But I want to know. Let's back up a couple of steps. You were always into industrial science. And that's what you went to school for, and I get that. But did you even have a clue or any idea of free energy or 0 point or perpetual motion or any of these ideas back then?
Yeah, no, not at all. I always had a strong interest in science, and early on I thought I might have gone into the medical field. But really, I think as I started some courses in college, more chemistry related, that seemed to be my strong aptitude. So I followed it along that way. So essentially, most of my training was in chemistry and some of the other hard sciences. And for me, I was more interested in how things work and if they work, if they can do something good. So the program that I was in was applied science. So I'm not so much a theoretical type of scientist, but more someone who's more practical minded about, hey, does it work? Great. Let's make it better. Let's make sure it's doing something good for us.
One of the things that I have always noticed growing up, and with you, because of what you do now, I know that you went through the same things. When you look around us, we see tremendous waste of energy. Look at the making of paper, which you dealt with. I mean, there's a tremendous amount of water and resources and electricity that goes into making every sheet of paper. And most people don't appreciate, forget about the cutting down of trees. There's that aspect of it too. But the amount of energy that it takes to transport, make, manufacture things like coffee. Coffee, it takes so much water and energy to make 1 cup of coffee. You have to even get the coffee comes from thousands of miles away. Then you have to get it here. So if there was a way to get the energy costs down of transportation, of manufacturing, of growing, and everything else, we would have a free run at life, wouldn't we?
Oh, it would greatly transform the way human civilization operates. All of these different processes to make things we take for granted, whether it's paper, coffee, these other things, the vehicles that we drive. There is such an appetite for both water and energy, for all of the processing that goes into manufacturing those goods, whether it's processing or that's coming out of the ground, tremendously energy intensive. to purify a lot of those into actually the metals that can be used to fabricate. Very water intensive as well. Pulp and paper is 99% a water-based process. Tremendous amount of energy that has to go into that. Just on and on and on. Water and energy. That is where it's at on planet Earth right now. And if you look around and see where most of the investments are going into energy and water science, it's not just here in the United States. It's a global phenomenon. There's thousands upon thousands of really great jobs that are being created in those industries. So it's really, those are the two critical resource issues right now on little planet Earth, energy and water. And any of the young people who are listening right now who are interested in a career, especially in the sciences, that's really where I would target looking, is seeing, hey, how can I carve out an academic path to arrive in those industries? Because it's not going away. We've got shortages in both water that are already upon many of us and looming in a lot of other areas. And then the energy card is something that I think most people are aware of. It's highly unstable right now as far as energy sources. You can see it at the gas pump, bouncing up and down. And we got a growing appetite around the world as we have the developing nations. They want to have the standard of living that we've long enjoyed here in the United States. So tremendous opportunities in both of those fields.
Somebody just posted, Bob just posted, the panelist with us. It's yourself, Mike Barra, Nick Redfern, Richard Dolan, Stanton Friedman, Steve Murillo, and William Brown. You got some heavy company that day, man.
Sounds like fun. I'll learn something for sure.
Just bring a camera. That's a heck of a panel, man. That's going to be great. Anyway, it was just posted. So, Stanton Friedman too as well. Yeah, it's going to be an awesome event. That entire contact all 3 days. What day?
I had heard when the conference organizer had contacted me that this is the first year that they've invited someone to come and talk specifically about breakthrough energy. So, I felt very delighted to receive that invitation, and I think people are starting to recognize that both breakthrough energy and advanced propulsion and the whole UFO-ET field itself, these things are inextricably linked, and I think it's really a timely topic to add to their offerings.
Let's jump into that a little bit. That's a thank you for that segue. I wanted to hold off for a little bit, but you went right there. When we look at the evidence that is in front of us, or what evidence that we do have, of course, sightings and video and testimony and witness testimony and radar tapes and recordings, that there's obviously something going on in front of us that the government has known about for a very, very long time. We could look at 1947 and in front to today, but there's evidence going back before 1947. But with all of that, with that technology of what it takes to go from, interstellar travel from another galaxy or another solar system back to here, obviously they're not running on gasoline. They don't have, there's not a coal furnace in the back of that ship where they're shoveling coal. There's an intelligence there. So what's your take on that? If there is, how would they do it? How would they get from here to there or there to here?
Well, I think the first thing we'd have to consider is it likely that a civilization that's traveling those distances, would they be using any type of consumable in their energy source? For instance, right now, our rockets are using a consumable fuel, basically a hydrogen-based fuel. And so you got to load these giant tanks of both the propellant and the oxidant. So you might have hydrogen, you got oxygen in the other tank, highly compressed, highly explosive and reactive. And we can only go so far before we deplete that consumable fuel. And we're only going, these very, very shallow distances.
Yeah, we're going into orbit.
Yeah, exactly. Or to the moon and back, or something, fairly mundane from the standpoint of interstellar travelers. So they would be using an energy source that can be tapped at any point in space-time. And so that suddenly jumps us into a whole nother physics level, going away from chemical fuels to other aspects of energy that are very poorly understood on planet Earth. And it's something that I think has been stumbled upon and played with in various ways by some maverick scientists and energy inventors, not just in large-scale labs, but in some garage workspaces. But I think there's also large coordinated efforts that have been going on for a long time in covert programs, both in this country and others, that have gone on for probably before World War II. In fact, if you talk to some researchers like Joseph Farrell, who I had the pleasure of hearing at the Secret Space Program conference back in the Bay Area last July, tremendous evidence that the Nazis already were doing work with exotic types of energy and propulsion systems based on electromagnetics or based on tapping what many call the zero-point energy field. But the long and short of it is, this is a way to be able to tap into energy fields as you go, and you're not consuming fuel. You don't need these bulky craft to pack all this extra material or fuel. So these craft can be very elegant and pretty sleek. I'd like to have one.
Well, the size of the craft to do anything interstellar with our current technology, the craft would be stupidly large, hundreds of miles long. If you consider the ratio of what we're using just to get something up into orbit and the space shuttle, and to think about the amount of fuel that it would take for 1,000 years of travel or 10,000 years of travel is an extraordinary, huge craft. And
right.
And there's also the possibilities. So what if we took that element out of it and the possibility of traversing wormholes and the energy that they're using to create a wormhole, or, and that's a tremendous amount of energy too as well. It would be the size of stars. So they've got something very easy, just something elemental, something very basic that they're using, and they have it readily available to them.
I agree with that. And, whether something like a wormhole actually requires a lot of energy to input it, to open up that porthole, or whether these already are existing pathways and you just need to know where they are so that you enter here. In any case, what's going on is probably fairly simple. The principles of the universe, I don't think, are complicated, at the root of it all. I think we tend to make it very complex. But I think the ones who are really living at levels vastly beyond the human civilization level have come to realize that, hey, the creator or the creative mechanism of the universe is probably using very fundamental principles and not a great deal of complexity. If a plant can grow from a little seed into an immense oak tree or into a redwood, how beautiful a process where you can take just this tiny little piece of matter, put it in one of the most simple substances that we have, both here and throughout the universe, water, the water molecule, and somehow this gets nourished, and energy is brought into that, and something magical unfolds. But it's so simple. There's some complexity inside it, of course, but really at the base of it all, it's very, very simple processes. And I think that's what we're going to find. And increasingly we will find that these processes are intertwined with consciousness as well. So we'll find that there's the energy of thought that is the basis of all of these things.
We're up against a break in 2 or 3 minutes. I wanted to ask you, what do your coworkers think, your fellow scientists and engineers? Is this a subject that you guys talk about freely, or do you keep your cards close to your chest?
It depends. It depends on the audience. I've had certain encounters where I was pretty liberal with my views and sharing some experiences, and I found that the other parties very quickly shut down, and actually in many cases they just walked away, or it was as if they just simply could not go there, and there was a boundary that they could not cross. So I quickly pulled things in close to the vest. Now what I do is I very carefully pay attention to how the others are speaking, and if there is an opening on a topic that they bring up that I think I can add something that might open up the mind to greater considerations, then I'll very gently probe that. And then if there's receptivity, then we'll go deeper and deeper. And in fact, that's how generally I have met colleagues in the science field where there's a strong resonance with the fact that there's much, much greater things going on than meets the eye.
Why do you think they shut down?
I think that the thought of having having the existence of technologies, of civilizations that are so far beyond what we've come to experience and be taught about is really shattering for someone who is considered to be educated as an expert. And I think the scientists here, modern science, really has this problem where we have such an ego stake in being looked at as the expert that when something comes along that is very disruptive to that, it feels like we've had a chunk of our identity just hacked out of us. And it requires some humility to just kind of say, you know what, geez, it looks like the data shows that there's something out there that I was totally unaware of. In fact, something that contradicts what I've always believed. And that's a scary place. It's especially a scary place for the science tower.
Isn't science supposed to be about free thinking and open thought and creativity to venture into new areas and explore and not close yourself down? Aren't we getting away from what made everything beautiful to begin with discovery?
Well, you said it great. You said it great right there. Being open-minded, being willing to look at the data, being truly dedicated to the discovery of new understandings, of finding out more about the truth that has always existed. But unfortunately, a lot of that independent thinking and being willing to just be open, being willing to learn something brand new today, even if it's something that might be totally contradictory to what I've believed and what I've taught and how I've earned a living. Well, those are things that I think the modern scientist really struggles with, because a lot of times where their earnings are coming from does not support these types of disruptive thinking. There oftentimes are strong vested interests that want to keep things corralled in a very narrow path. And having incremental change, incremental improvement is great, but totally disruptive change is not welcome.
All right, we'll stop right there. It's a good spot, real good spot. Tonight, Joel Garbon, free energy, 0 point energy. What is background energy, perpetual motion? We're going to talk about all of that. More when we come back right after this. This is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Stay with us.
Way out here, we listen to Jimmy Church.
You're listening to Fade to Black.
Alternative Talk, KGRA.
This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black. May arrives soon, and with it comes another Contact in the Desert. So join me in Joshua Tree, California, for the 3rd annual Contact in the Desert Conference being held May 29th through the 31st. 2015 brings another awesome lineup of speakers, including publisher of Legendary Times, Giorgio Tsoukalos, New York Times bestselling author David Wilcock, journalist and conspiracy expert Jim Mars, former head of UFO Project for the MOD Nick Pope, investigative reporter Linda Moulton Howe, author and contactee Travis Walton, UFO historian Richard Dolan, and many more. You don't want to miss this. Fade to Black and KGRA will be there broadcasting live May 29th. Just visit contactinthedesert.com for tickets and information. That's contactinthedesert.com.
¿Qué tal, mis amigos? Yo soy Mario Carson, el tiburón, y los invito para que escuchen a mi buen amigo Jimmy Church Radio. ¡Claro que sí!
Did you ever turn to your radio for your favorite talk show to find that it's been preempted for this?
In the air to deep right center. Back goes Lewis to the wall, and it's out of here!
Or this?
And I'm ashamed of you, Hillary, for voting for it.
Do you have a favorite talk radio program that's not available in your city? Just go to TalkStreamLive.com for links to the best streaming talk radio shows. At TalkStream Live, you will find live talk shows 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. All your favorites are here. With such a large selection, you will also discover some new favorites. On the go and still want to listen? With the mobile smartphone, simply type TalkStream Live on your internet browser. Now you can take internet radio with you. You will also find hundreds of music, news, and sports streams. Best of all, the TalkStream Live directory is free and there's never a login required. Remember TalkStreamLive.com, the fastest route between you and your favorite talk radio show.
You are listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
Oi, oi, I'm Reese Evans. You're listening to Jimmy Church. This is Revolution. The revolution will not be televised. The revolution is on radio. Ciao.
Welcome back. This is Fade to Black, bespoke radio for the masses on the Game Changer Network, KGRA The Planet. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, Joel Garbon is with us, discussing free energy, 0 point energy, and what it means for the future of planet Earth. All concerns for all of us today. The call-in number is 323-825-5045. We're going to open up the phone lines in the third segment. Joel, I want to narrow down a couple of definitions really quick before we move on. Let's start with 0 point energy. It's a word that is tossed around a lot today. Documentaries, discussions, panels, it's movies, and so forth. What is 0 point energy?
Okay, so we know that when we have molecules in motion, that there's got to be energy there. When molecules are moving, whether it's in a fluid that either is a liquid or a gas, there's heat, there's energy. And as long as there's motion, generally we assume that there's an energy input in there. Now, most people have heard about the concept of absolute zero, which would be a temperature so cold that you would have everything frozen still. So the matter itself would come to an absolute stop. There'd be no heat, no energy at all. And so you would think there'd be no molecular motion. Well, there have been careful experiments made bringing down the temperature to essentially at absolute zero, although it's hard to actually get to that point, but getting very, very close to absolute zero. But yet there can still be detected with certain types of molecules the fact that it is not frozen. So like helium in those cases can still be a liquid at those very, very low temperatures. Well, how can it be that it doesn't freeze to a solid at that temperature? Well, it means that there's something else going on. It's not just the apparent absence of heat. There must be another energy input here. And so the 0 point is really, that term is coming out of this, that we should be at a point where there's zero heat, zero energy, but yet there is something else detectable. And there are very careful measurements that have also been made in experiments that demonstrate what's called the Casimir effect, where basically when you have some very highly polished plates and you bring them very close together, there is an attraction that occurs between those plates that wouldn't be expected to be there, especially when you are the principle being that when you are inside this certain very, very small gap where you have a wavelength of energy now that can be pressing those plates together. It's really not an attraction so much; it's actually a pushing on that. That now is basically well accepted by the physics community as acknowledgement of this other type of energy that's present everywhere throughout space-time, the 0 point field. So I'm not giving an elegant description of it, but just the principle there is what I'm trying to touch on. So it is accepted that there is this very difficult to measure in any type of large-scale way, but does give little hints and teasers of its presence with some of these very specialized experiments. And so, this energy field is pretty much the stuff from which everything else arises. It's incredibly dense. It's incredibly elusive and ethereal, and yet it's so powerful that a whole universe could arise from a single point of it, and it's just remarkable. It's something that goes more, I think, into it starts to depart from the realms of science at a certain point and goes more into the realms of cosmology and spirit. Because how is it that this stuff even came about, and how is it that it's the primal foundation of everything that can be sensed? It really is a conundrum and an incredible thing to ponder.
Is this technology right now not only known, but being developed around us right now, and they're keeping it from us?
Well, I definitely believe that to be the case. There is so much evidence that there are different types of craft that are now human-made, may have been back-engineered from crashed and retrieved craft from civilizations not of our planet. But there's so many sightings that are going on now of high-performance craft that seem to be able to do right-angle turns. They seem to be there and then disappear, or to go from a dead stop to such a fast acceleration that it would splatter any living organism under normal rules because of the high G's that would be experienced inside something like that. Clearly, there is this energy technology that's been developed here in various covert programs. I think it's been funded both by taxpayer dollars and by the illicit economy and through a lot of these types of financial manipulations that have essentially caused great wealth transfer from the masses into very few hands. Much of those finances go unaccounted for, for unacknowledged special access projects, all kinds of very high-tech manipulation of finance on this planet, and engineered manipulation, so that these types of expensive programs can continue to develop and propagate and to still be kept secret, because that part of it too has got to be a massively expensive proposition, is to keep a lid on all of this. But it's being done despite the fact that millions and millions of people have had direct personal experiences of various types of technology that defy conventional explanation.
You remind me of Ben Rich and, his famous quote or quotes, whatever you can imagine, we can already do it.
Yeah, we
have the technology to take E.T. home.
Mm-hmm.
And what was his other? Well, anyway, just those two.
Yeah.
What is this the technology that he was referring to when you hear a quote like that? Is that, do you think that's where he's going?
Oh yeah, I think of course he's talking about these things, and so it.
I know what the other quote was. I have to cut you off. The other quote was,
Sure.
It would take an act of God to pry this technology out of and get it out there. That was his other quote. So again, it's like a direct reference to what you're referring to.
And isn't it amazing when people, you think about, normal human nature. If you come upon something that just totally amazes you, and you give someone a cell phone, all right, and you give them social media, and you come across even like an interesting, trivial piece of information or a relatively trivial encounter that you have with something that seems mildly interesting, you've blasted that off to dozens or hundreds of people within minutes, and so imagine coming across or being actively involved in some of the most game-changing technological feats and programs that have vast global consequences, and to keep a lid on that. It's kind of boggles the mind to think that has occurred. Some will use that as an argument to say, well, that just makes the point that there really aren't these great secrets because people could never keep them. Governments have loose lips. There's no way that you could keep them. But the thing is there have been a lot of loose lips, and they have talked about what they've seen. The problem is that the lid has been kept on those mainstream sources of information, such as the media, the dominant media, which has been increasingly consolidated. So there's been a lot of resources expended in keeping a lid on these things and behind the wizard's curtain. But, ultimately, I see that the service that's being provided from people in alternative media like you, Jimmy, and others, and the willingness of more and more citizens to believe what they see and what they know in their horse sense to be true, that it just makes no rational sense at all that we'd be alone in the universe. And it makes no sense at all that so many of these very provocative testimonies from people who are highly credible, that those are just people who are delirious or demented. That makes no sense. And then you got all the regular citizens who've had their own direct experiences. And I've been among many people like that. I mean, I've had dozens of different anomalous experiences that I can't explain, but I've had them, and I've had many of those in the presence of others. And we're just regular people, but who look up and pay attention and do some research. It's all out there for people to discover. So this whole disclosure, and that word gets kicked around, continuously, disclosure. It's happening. It's happening, and it's being bled out to us in various ways over time. And because the inevitable is is going to be upon us here, I think, fairly soon, where it's just not going to be a secret anymore for anybody. I think there's, religious institutions such as the Vatican who are a lot more open-minded to these things about, vast universal realities and other civilizations. They're more open to that than a lot of folks in the science communities.
Yeah, and Washington, D.C. They're bracing themselves for the reality when it happens, so they can at least go, well, we told you, we were trying to,
It's been such a pathetic I told you.
Yes.
And it's really hiding behind a lot of very weak and lame explanations of, national security and all this, or the populace couldn't handle it. There'd be widespread panic and people be jumping off bridges and all that. No, when you have people from the Vatican talking about this, hey, if they're here, we'd be interested in sharing our faith and baptizing them. And, these are all children of the same Creator and all this, all which makes perfect philosophical sense.
Sure.
Guess what? And I would say that particular institution has vast resources of its own and highly trained scientists in the Jesuit community that I know because I've been taught by some of them in my own Catholic school upbringing. And these are very intelligent men of science and women too, who are very serious-minded, and they're looking for the truth and not afraid to talk about it. So I think this is going to be so ridiculously embarrassing for those who did not have the courage inside government circles to speak about what they know here. I just think it's going to be shameful for so many of them, and I wish more of them would just simply step out of it and get out of that whole muck of having to be, suppressed in any way. I mean, speak your truth. When it comes down to this fundamental question, what is your purpose here on earth? Is it to live in fear and to allow yourself to be controlled and to give over your will to some type of external authority,
right?
Maybe even because they carry guns or whatever? That's no one's purpose here on earth. And we have to get a strong dose of courage and be willing to stand in our truth and look towards something that's much bigger, much greater. And we can get there, and we are going to get there. And it's because there's an explosion of people who are starting to see these things. They're waking up. They're looking up. They're using critical thinking. They're starting to reject this entrainment of all of the digital media, all of the cyber cyber realities and all this, and they're saying, look, I can no longer be distracted by these things because they're entraining me into a whole another thought process that is dulling my awareness of what's really going on.
Right.
And I see people breaking out of that, and I love it because those people are more likely to establish community with others who are also interested in knowing what's going on behind the wizard's curtain. They're willing to do research. They're willing to be activist-minded about these things and demanding that the truth be known and it be told. And I think most of these people, other citizens like this who have stretched their consciousness a bit, really aren't interested in playing a blame game with those who've tried to keep the secrets or trying to say, we're going to now exact some type of vengeance on you because of the manipulation of the populace and all the hardships that have been endured. I don't see that is where people are coming from. The ones who really want to see us go somewhere really good and really beautiful. I think most of these people with this higher consciousness and a true desire for truth and understanding are willing to say, hey, truth and reconciliation. Now let's get on board and let's move into this amazing new era that's right on our doorstep. We just have to be willing to cross that threshold and experience it. And it's going to be breathtaking.
What about free energy? We've talked about 0 point. Is free energy interchangeable with 0 point energy? And is this what Tesla was chasing so many years ago?
Well, the term free energy is used very commonly in the breakthrough energy circles here, and it really applies to any of the energy sources in the wheelwork of nature that really are free for the harvesting. So this would include the wind, this would include the sun, this would include the tides, this would include the gravitational field of the earth. All of these things are freely available for us to tap into for our energy. Now, generally speaking, the breakthrough energy community, and like I run an organization, a nonprofit called New Energy Movement, which is one of several organizations that research and educate about what's going on behind the scenes in breakthrough energy technologies. When we talk about free energy, we are referring to technologies that go beyond the conventional renewables of wind and solar and tidal and hydroelectric and biofuels. We're talking about technologies that are really on the frontiers of physics, that are exploring new principles of science, but yet are dealing with energy sources that are very high density, very, very robust, and could provide clean, continuous, and nearly free energy for our whole global civilization. It doesn't mean that they cost $0 to get there, because if you have a device that taps into these fields of clean energy, it's going to cost something for that device. And so to say it's just totally free is being a little bit liberal in speaking about it, but very, very inexpensive, such that it essentially is free. That's really what we're talking about.
Well, what I don't understand, and I know that it's me being naive in a certain way too as well, but growing up and knowing about solar power, going all the way back when I was a child of the 60s, and solar power was a big thing, and well, it is now, but the technology and the dream of it. And you look around this country of ours, and you look at the roads, you look at the roofs, you look at all of the available surfaces that we just have, that we just build every day, that solar power, we could literally run on solar power right now today, and we haven't done it. I have solar power over at my house, not here at the studio, but over at my home. I've got solar power. I do. I love it. And I live in a solar power neighborhood that, all of the houses, the homes, these are single family homes. Everybody's got solar power. Why doesn't the government why is it just money? And like I said, is it me being just naive that it all comes down to money, and that's why we don't do all of the free energy, wind, solar, hydro sources that we have right in front of it right now? We know we can run clean and free. We just don't. Is it money? Is that it? Is that the reason why?
Well, I think that's a big part of it. I mean, there's huge amounts of money that are traded in the whole energy infrastructure globally. I mean, many trillions of dollars on an annual basis here. So some of the most powerful special interests and corporations have a very strong interest in having no disruptions to business as usual. I mean, the fossil fuels is probably the best example of that. But now what you see also is that in the, big wind, big solar, there's a lot of large corporations that now are in the conventional renewable energy business. And that's what when I talk about wind and solar, to me, that's conventional renewable. because those have been around for a long time, hundreds of years, maybe longer for water power, probably, thousands of years, using water to turn, some mechanical device like a grinding wheel or something like that.
Sure.
So these have been around for a long time. We've gotten better and more efficient in how to use them. The technology has made incremental change over a long period of time. The cost is coming down for wind and solar, which is good, and we're seeing a lot more deployment of it globally. In fact, just in 2014, there was almost $300 billion invested in renewable energy, and most all of that was in wind and solar. And, so that's an amazing level of investment. And, it goes to show there are very serious, efforts afoot to go to, more and more clean energy in the name of wind and solar here. In fact, there's, certain areas where there's a what's called a renewable portfolio standard, like California has one, where you have to have a certain amount of renewable energy for the whole electrical generation for a state or a region. And they have target timelines where that has to be in place. And that's great. Those provide great incentives, especially when there's government subsidies that come into play. And that's the way a lot of local governments and even nations, like in the case of Germany, that's the way, they got a lot of this, this technology funded and, zooming along. And after a while, the industry is expected to now kind of, stand on their own 2 feet without the subsidies. And as the prices have come down, that becomes, more and more feasible. So wind and solar will continue to grow, and they will have an increasing share of the incremental new supply of energy. So as populations grow and as developing nations have an increased appetite for first world type of appetites for energy, there's a growing demand. Well, that incremental demand will be satisfied more and more percentage-wise by the renewables, primarily wind and solar. Now, still, there's a tremendous amount of new energy capacity that's coming on with fossil fuels and with nuclear as well. All right. Most of the baseload energy for this whole planet, though, is mired down in the fossil fuels. And some in a smaller share in nuclear, smaller than that in hydroelectric. But the vast majority is coal burning, oil burning, natural gas burning. That's a huge baseload energy demand. And these renewables of wind and solar really aren't chipping away at much any of that, because there's more and more coal-fired power plants, being built. India and China, especially, natural gas power plants, being commissioned. So there's still, just a tremendous amount of dirty fuels that are used, including nuclear fuels, to satisfy the vast majority of the energy appetite. Now, from the standpoint of folks like us at New Energy Movement, we believe that all clean energy technologies should be examined and deployed if they're deemed safe. And that's where these new energy technologies like cold fusion, for instance, which has made great leaps and bounds, especially in the last few years.
Right.
And this is right on our doorstep.
Yeah, we're close. We're close.
Electromagnetic technology, some magnetic motors, or developments there that are just breathtaking, and we're very, very close there. There's other types of energy systems using water as fuel. It's very, very exciting. And we believe all these things should be given a fair shake at contributing to the clean energy supply, and not play favorites in this. And undoubtedly, these new technologies will be highly disruptive both to the business as usual in the fossil fuel and nuclear realm, but they will also be considered threatening to wind and solar. So there will be lobbies arrayed from those kind of newbies against the introduction of these newer technologies as well, because the conventional renewables of wind and solar are intermittent. These new energy technologies will be continuous. You got 24/7 power. You don't have to worry about whether the sun is shining or the wind is blowing.
Right.
And it's very game changing, and the power density is tremendously higher with these new technologies. You won't need a giant windmill that to some people's eyes is a blight on the landscape. You won't need a solar farm that covers a desert that many think is a total encroachment on the natural environment and does a lot of damage. The conventional renewables are very low power density in comparison to even the fossil fuels, and certainly to nuclear fuels, and very, very low density compared to what's coming around the corner.
I'll tell you something that's really scary and disturbing. A few years ago, it was about 3 years ago, 4 years ago, I'm with this guy. He's an engineer working overseas. I won't say the company that he worked for, but he built power plants. Mm-hmm. And I said, "Wow! So we're not building any here in the United States. No contract. Well, where are you building? Well, we're building in China. Building in China." And he's like, "Yeah, and that's where the money's at. And we have a contract to build. I forget the number, but it was crazy. I think he said 50. They're building 50, and I was like, what the pollution? And these are coal fired.
Coal-fired.
Yeah. And I'm just thinking about 50 additional plants, and already a pollution creating country. But over here, this was an American engineering company, one of the big ones. Mm-hmm. They're not concerned with the environment, with what's going on. They're thinking about the contracts for building these plants, of which we're building for China for profit. No concerns about renewable, no concerns about greenhouse and nothing. It's all about let's engineer these things, let's design them, and let's go over to China and let's go build them, and let's build as many as we can. And the short-sightedness is just incredible.
Well, it is short-sighted from the big picture when you're stepping back. But this is what we do as people. We all have an interest in earning a living to feed our families. And there's this basic drive that we have to protect our interests, our economic interests, protect our families, ensure their security. And whether that's coming from, chopping down old growth trees or building coal-fired and nuclear power plants, it doesn't change the fact that our primal concern and our primal fear has to do with the well-being of ourselves and our families. And we get that. I mean, everyone gets that. And that's not going to change, all right, that those basic instincts. But what can change is how we go about maneuvering the economy into opening the doors for other opportunities that can allow people to embrace these new and cleaner technologies, and the tremendous amount of remediation that will occur because it becomes possible with nearly free energy. There's all kinds of ways we can deploy that new technology of clean and free energy to clean up all of the environmental damage that's been done on the planet, to be able to grow food anywhere on the planet, to be able to take water directly out of the air, pure water, to drink, so we don't have to dam up rivers.
Why don't you run for president? Okay.
Well, I don't have $1 billion sitting around.
Man. I'm going to jump over to Twitter. Hey, what's your? Are you on Twitter?
I'm not, Jimmy. No,
okay.
I'm not.
I don't know if you know this, but Twitter is going to be big. It's going to be huge.
Yeah. I've heard that.
Yeah.
I've heard that.
All right. Let me jump over to Twitter really quick. I've got a bunch of questions lined up. This is from Les. He says, if they used 100 square miles in the desert for solar in America, could we have enough power to power the entire country?
I've heard that. I've heard that tossed out before as as a statistic, and yeah, that may be possible. See, one of the things that's happening is there are improvements in the efficiency of solar power systems. I mean, not too many years ago, like a standard photovoltaic panel, would had about 10% efficiency. Now we're right on the threshold of 20%. That's a huge, huge change in just a relatively few years. And so these panels are becoming much more efficient. And also, there's other technologies using concentrated solar power where you're focusing a very intense beam on a dish, and you're able to heat up a fluid or other heat carrier to generate electricity with that, or generate thermal power. So that these technologies are improving, and whether 100 square miles would be enough to do it, I don't know. Maybe it pencils out that way. And I'm not challenging the fact that we could power our whole country on solar. Mathematically, we could do that probably, especially with all the rooftops that are available. But the fact of the matter is that is unlikely to occur. When you have something else that is much, much better, much higher power density, meaning you get the same amount of energy in a device that's much smaller and much cheaper. So you don't have to take up land in order to have, the 3 to 5 kilowatts of power that it takes to satisfy the demands of the average house here in the U.S. You might have a device that's the size of your coffee cup. Okay? Now that suddenly becomes, pretty daggone exciting to a lot of people. You can do a lot of things with that.
And but very unprofitable to a whole other lot of people.
Yeah, yes, and that is the disruptive aspect of it. And this is where from where I sit, there needs to be people, and in corporate boardrooms as well, asking themselves the question on ethics and purpose here of why are we here? What is our purpose here, not just in this corporate tower, in this boardroom, but more fundamental than that is what is my purpose here on earth? Is it to maximize profits at all costs? And the obvious answer is no. And anyone who continues to deny their true purpose, and anyone who asks themselves honestly that question, they'll come to the same conclusion, that it's a much higher purpose. It has nothing to do with money. It has nothing to do with despoiling the environment. It has nothing to do with competition. None of that. It has everything to do with healing, encouraging beauty, encouraging the pursuit of truth and understanding, helping to build a civilization that is ever more enlightened and that is ever more healthy, that's ever more beautiful. This is really what we're here to do. And it doesn't come by adhering to values and ethics that really should just be, swept into the dustpan and dumped in the garbage with the kitty litter. It just does not serve us anymore. We can do better than that, but it requires having the courage to just ask that question of ourselves and ask it of our colleagues. Don't be afraid to speak up in the boardroom and ask the big question: what's our holy purpose here on earth? It has nothing to do with money,
But isn't that what? I know. I don't mean to cut you off, but before we swing somewhere else, I have to get this thought out. Isn't that what killed Tesla? That very giving attitude. It's here. It's for there's a way to do this, and it's here, and everybody can have it for free. Isn't that very thought exactly what brought him down?
I think you could say that the prevailing consciousness in Tesla's time was arrayed against a man so radical,
right,
and so revolutionary. That consciousness is weakening, and it is yielding to a consciousness that is more holistic.
Sure.
I'm going to give you a great example of something that just happened. It was amazing.
Oop, you there?
Yeah.
You okay? Calm down, Joel. Calm down.
Okay. I had an amazing conversation on a plane trip just a few days ago, coming back from Canada back to Portland, Oregon. For 3 hours on this plane, sitting next to me was this very intelligent 16-year-old young lady named Haley. And, Haley and I just exchanged, a few, hey, how are you? How's your day? And then very quickly, she explained that, she's, in high school, loves science. She likes robotics. She's in a robotics club and this. We started to talk about, well, where do you want to go to college? Well, Stanford, Cal, Caltech, top flight science engineering school, this type of thing. And we started talking about, well, what about robotics? What about artificial intelligence? What about transhumanism? What about breakthrough energy? What about breakthrough civilizations? What about UFO ET? What about geoengineering? What about GMOs? We covered in 3 hours such an amazing array of in-your-face, real stuff behind the wizard's curtain going on right now. And this young lady, she, each time I'd give like a little tidbit. It's kind of like what you said to me earlier or asked me about. So what happens when your science colleagues are in the room and you broach some of these topics? Okay, so this young lady, Haley, as I would broach a little bit of this, I would kind of like, be in reserve mode, and then she would ask a very insightful question, and I would offer a little more. Take a break. She'd ask another question, and for 3 hours she was totally engaged in this whole conversation, and it was just amazing. I was so inspired by not only her engagement and interest in learning, but it was very clear that this young lady is so well suited to be a leader and help bring up a whole segment of her generation as very aware people who start to understand where they are being manipulated and distracted. And she said it herself when I asked the question, do you and your friends ever look up? And she looks at me, she says, well, no, Joel, we're always looking at our hand. And she tilts her head downward, like looking into her her iPhone.
Yeah.
And I said, well, do you guys ever talk about these types of things that you and I have been talking about so freely? And she says, no, we normally are talking about other people and ourselves and what's going on. And she says, you know what? This is really the first time I've talked about any of this type of stuff, but it's fascinating. And she goes, and I want to share it with others. So I gave her as a gift this wonderful publication that Catherine Austin Fitz provides to her Solari report subscribers, and it was the end of the year wrap up publication,
right,
which addresses all of these issues in it. And I gave this to her, and I said, look, I'd love you to have this gift, but promise me you'll read it and you'll share it with your family and your friends. And she's like, oh yeah, absolutely. And I walked off that plane, Jimmy, after this 3 hour dynamic conversation, feeling so hopeful that oh my God, there is going to be something happen here, and I can see this. This young lady's going to become a leader in this, and I just felt just totally inspired by that. So the consciousness, going back to where this started, the consciousness is changing. It's no longer what was the case with Tesla. It's much different now, and that's why the hinges are creaking and they're breaking apart, and that door's going to fall down here pretty soon. And I don't think it's going to need anyone to even kick it down. when it's rusted off its hinges. I think it's just going to fall down itself, because it's time to have a window that you can see through, that's transparent, instead of a solid door that's blocked our vision.
Sure. And, the era of the robber barons, if you know what I mean, Westinghouse and all of the things that were going on in the late 1800s and the early 1900s, and the absolute monopoly control of so many different areas of industry, not only with power and transportation, that is getting weaker and weaker. There's no doubt about that. But when you're the guy like Tesla that starts, in their eyes, talking crazy talk, free energy, this, that, clean, let's turn things around, we can do this, and there's free everything for all. When you start to do that, that's exactly when you get clamped down. And now we do have a voice now. You're right. We have shows like this, and we have the internet.
Yeah.
And engineers and scientists like yourself are able to communicate freely with ideas, where Tesla and, guys like him and Marconi, and, they were singular. They weren't able to communicate on the other side of the world immediately. And with publications. But now you guys can do that. And so those robber barons don't have that control today, do they?
Right. And there's another difference as well, Jimmy, and that is that in Tesla's day, the robber barons didn't know that the technology was real. They had little tidbits of it that they could see, but it was so far beyond conventional understanding there that it was easy to dismiss it. But now, the big corporate interest, they know these technologies are real. They absolutely know it. And as an example of this, in December, Bill Gates was in Italy and got a very good briefing on the whole cold fusion field there. And now there's some very credible reports that Gates is now funding cold fusion research as well. In fact, it's probably beyond research. It's probably development, because there are some very robust technologies already that have come out of that genre of new energy. And so when you have someone who of that visibility and with that much corporate muscle going on, something is happening. There are a lot of investors pouring money into some of these new energy fields, not near as much as the $300 billion going for wind and solar, but there's very targeted investment that's going into some of these technologies, and there's a change afoot, my brother.
What are you working on yourself right now? Is there anything secret you can reveal on the show?
I have relationships with a number of inventors, and also have confidentiality agreements with many of these, and others basically say, hey, you can speak freely all you want. And the only reason for confidentiality in most cases would be where they have not yet gotten to the point where they feel like they are ready for prime time, and they don't want to be distracted by all of a sudden a lot of visibility. So generally, when I speak about the technologies, I am talking about classes of technology rather than inventors by name.
Sure.
But there are a few companies that I can mention, a few individuals in that. So there's a company in Washington State, Global Energy Systems. They've got several very, very interesting technologies, very high gain energy technologies, one of which is a variant on cold fusion, and it will essentially uses a plasma to heat water at an incredibly rapid pace, and that process has been vetted by nuclear physicists from Hanford, and it has it's been measured to have at least an output to input ratio of 7-to-1. So we would call that 7 times over unity,
right.
or a coefficient of performance of 700%. But basically, it means that the measurable output energy is much higher than the input energy that's used to stimulate the process. It doesn't mean that energy is being created. It just means that input energy is coming from a source other than what is conventionally measured. Like, we're very good at measuring electrical input, heat. We're good at measuring magnetism. We're good at measuring chemical effects. These types of things. Are we very good at measuring, energy that might be coming from the gravitational field of the planet or from the 0 point, things like that? Well, no, we're not. So when you hear these claims of over-unity, these are not claims that energy is being created. It's just that it is being transformed from what essentially is an unlimited source of input energy into an output form that is very measurable and very usable. So whether it's electrical output or thermal output, as in the case with this plasma type of fusion technology, those are things that are readily used because the huge amount of energy consumption is used for doing nothing but heating water. Whether it's the in-home water heater that we all have, or whether it is for an industrial boiler for some type of manufacturing process,
making coffee,
for producing for producing the steam that's used in most power plants to spin a turbine and generate electricity. Mm-hmm. It's all about heating water. That's really all a nuclear power plant is doing.
That's all they're doing.
Just heating it up. So here, this becomes a very clean, high-density, power source that could be used to replace the nuclear rods in a nuclear power plant or replace a coal-fired power plant. So that's one one type of technology. They also have a very, very interesting what they call an energy chip that essentially just extracts energy directly from the environment, and it's and using the energy from the environment to cause an electron flow in the chip. And essentially it is you could almost think of it like a continuous battery, but it's in the form of a chip, and so it's continually generates current.
Now, does the patent office? I mean, do they immediately poo-poo this? I mean, are we defining that as perpetual motion? In a strange definition, but certainly that's what is implied there. Could that even be patented?
Yeah. Oh yeah, these things can be patented. There's been a moratorium on cold fusion.
Yes.
That came out of the whole debacle of fraudulently classifying cold fusion as junk science, and that it's interesting. 26 years ago in March, actually March 23rd, 1989, that's when cold fusion was announced. So we lost a quarter of a century because of the way that was just stomped on. Because a lot of various vested interests, both in the energy world and in the science world, did not want it to have anything to do with this. But that research has continued to this day. It's been refined. It's become much more reproducible, much more robust. And the example I gave here just a second ago is just one variant of that. And there are several other types of novel fusion processes that are clean, they're safe, they generate a tremendous amount of excess heat, and these things they're being investigated and they're going to be commercialized, and it's very exciting. Probably the most well-known researcher of those right now is an Italian inventor named Andrea Rossi, and he's got a tremendous following now globally in the breakthrough energy circles for his technology that's called the ECAT for energy catalyzer, and in another form of it they call the hot cat. But his cold fusion type of technology, while he may not like the term cold fusion, we might call it low energy nuclear reaction or something like that. Well, basically what they're doing is they're taking powdered nickel and they're using a source of hydrogen, and in his case, it's a solid fuel pellet that essentially is some special metals that are combined with hydrogen. In his case, it's lithium aluminum hydride. So it's a little solid fuel pellet. They're combined together in a little ceramic reactor. It's electrically heated up to probably about 400 degrees centigrade. That's enough to liberate the hydrogen from the solid fuel pellets. And then that hydrogen then infuses into the nickel, and something magical happens in there, and some of that hydrogen fuses and becomes helium, and you release a tremendous amount of energy. And that's essentially a low-energy nuclear reaction. His process has been replicated by others, and it's kind of all the buzz inside the breakthrough circles.
It is. And the one thing, we're up against a break, so I just wanted to jump in real quick and comment. Sure. The defamation and the debunking and the tearing down of him and his research by, I'm using they very loosely because it's a broad stroke of the pen. It's everybody seems to be attacking him. But I have never seen a campaign so relentless than what has been hitting him for a long, long time.
Yeah. Part of that has been an artifact from earlier activities that he was engaged in that have caused great scrutiny.
His partner,
just other things that where people have made accusations of some type of fraud or scam or fraudulent science or whatever. And I'm not claiming that was the case. I'm just saying these are what some have reported. And so he already had some strikes against him in the eyes of some. And it's fair to say also too that look, I got a lot of colleagues who I respect in the breakthrough energy field who have also been his detractors, and I respect their opinion from the fact that they will look at things both technical and reputation and kind of other circumstances to kind of arrive at their conclusions about whether this is likely a real technological breakthrough or whether it's something that is not. And I respect their position. And then there's others who are just totally enthusiastic, banner wavers for the Rossi camp. And my approach has always been, I'm going to wait. Let's just see what the data shows. And now we're at this point where there have been very credible teams of physicists who have independently verified his technology, and then others have independently replicated the technology and shown successful experiments where they're producing at least 3-to-1 excess heat. And so to me, and there's definitely more of those replications going on. And to me, that's kind of the proof of the pudding right there. This is real technology. It is robust. Whether Rossi gets to cash in on it or not, maybe deservedly so. He should be able to. But the fact of the matter is, this technology is on its way. And, I think we're probably going to see something within a couple years where some of the first industrial installations are likely to be, cautiously, started up and see where it goes from there.
All right, we're up against a break, Joel, so let's do that now. When we come back after the break, we're talking with Joel Garbon, free energy, 0 point, recent technology and breakthroughs. When we come back, I want to ask him about John Hutchison and where is John today, and I also want to talk about Dr. Stephen Greer and his project of fundraising in 0 Point Energy. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. We'll be back right after this. Stay with us.
KGRA Radio. Intelligent talk.
Are you a paranormal investigator, ghost hunter, or UFO skywatcher? If so, FNGinnovations.com has the product you definitely need in your investigations kit or go bag. Introducing the Morpholite Wide Beam Tactical Flashlights that put the light where you need it most. Traditional flashlights shine a focused round beam with limited line of sight in the dark. Morpholite Tactical Flashlights change all that, utilizing a revolutionary wide beam design to enable you to see safety hazards such as hanging wires and steel, pipes, and holes in the floor you just can't see with a focused round beam. In the field, where safety is paramount, a 180-degree beam increases orientation and peripheral vision in the dark. Morpholite flashlights are ideal for investigations in abandoned facilities such as houses and hospitals, factories, caves, and tunnels. Avoid those low-hanging tree branches that poke your eyes in the woods. Visit FNGinnovations.com to see a full line of tactical lights and accessories. That's FNGinnovations.com.
Now you can find all your favorite talk radio shows live, all in one place at TalkStreamLive.com. Listen from anywhere, office, home, or in your car. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com and click on one of the many live talk show hosts you want to listen to. It's free and easy. No computer? Download the smartphone apps. Never miss your favorite talk show. Find them all at TalkStreamLive.com.
Hi, Ray Sobbs here with KGRA. Spring is just around the corner here in Northwest Arkansas, and that means it's almost time for the 28th Annual Ozark Mountain UFO Conference, continuing a time-honored tradition of bringing thought-provoking information about other worlds around us. Join me and the KGRA crew April 10th through the 12th in beautiful Eureka Springs, Arkansas, for another great lineup of speakers, including investigative journalist Linda Moulton Howe, the National UFO Reporting Center's Peter Davenport, returning to Ozark as this year's keynote speaker, author and American historian Richard Dolan, and many more. The KGRA will be there broadcasting live all weekend. Register and reserve your seating early and pick up a free membership from the KGRA and Ozark Mountain Publishing. Visit www.ozarkufoconference.com for tickets and information. That's ozarkufoconference.com.
All right, welcome back. Fade to Black, bespoke radio for the masses on the Game Changer Network and KGRA The Planet. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, Joel Garbon is with us. Free energy, 0 point, new technologies. Let's save planet Earth. That's the subject tonight, Joel. What do you think about Dr. Greer's project of fundraising for Free Energy Lab? That would make, and also, you know, his open source outlook.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that it is a very noble endeavor that Steve's, had out there for quite a while. I've known Steve since, actually since the 2 days before 9/11, because I was part of a host community here in Portland when he gave one of the early disclosure talks, and then 9/11 happened just the day before he gave his talk here in Portland, and we became pretty good friends over a few years there. So I had a chance to get to know Steve some and see what his perspectives were here. He's a brilliant man. He's one of the most intelligent people who I've ever met, and he's been very challenged too along the way. Certainly, Steve has had his detractors, and I'm sure he's learned a lot along the way. Probably also from the standpoint of the conduct of relationships, and sometimes people who are in the limelight are very challenged from the standpoint of having relationships that can be trusted and are real, and it goes both ways. And so some of the criticisms that have been leveled at Steve, basically it have been difficult to watch from where I sit. But this man has, I think, contributed more singularly to the awareness of these big picture issues on the UFO ET front than anyone else who I know of. And I think he's been very courageous in doing what he's been doing for such a long time as well. And standing in a lot of hot water along a lot of that. Now, the new energy piece of this, and using proceeds from like the Sirius movie and some other fundraising to develop a new energy research labs and open source technologies. Those are great initiatives, and we've as the breakthrough energy community has been quite collaborative in trying to marshal along those types of initiatives. We've been marginally successful, though. We've probably been much better at generating awareness than we have at generating funds for these things. I'd say there's been quite a bit of targeted assistance, small targeted assistance to some inventors along the way. That's been helpful to them, and certainly some very good publicity and public awareness of what they're doing and appeals for support. But we've fallen short as a group at large in really generating the big dollar funding that could really marshal a lot of these technologies along, to the tune of how, wind and solar are getting this massive support that they have. So, my hat's off to Steve, and I've always, wished him well in this, and, but it is important to realize that the community, the breakthrough energy community, consists of quite a large number of individuals, and there's no one head of it. And what is important is that the tendency for there to be factions within that community really is something that has been a challenge, because sometimes what should be a very harmonious family and all rowing in the same direction sometimes becomes quite fractious and sometimes even backbiting, and I just find that very sad. It's not what I'm about or what my organization is about. We feel like, hey, we all got to get on the same page, but check the ego at the door.
Right.
Let's get on with this work, because it's hard work. And like in my case, my whole group is all volunteer. They're all work part-time. Everyone's got a day job of some other field that is feeding the family, but we're committed to this work. And people who hear us talk about it, they know we're passionate about it. And it's just kind of what it is. We've somehow signed up for this somewhere along the way, and trying our best to honor that commitment.
What about the dark side? You hear time and time again, a water-powered car, a perpetual device,
Right.
Something that improves carburation, some electronic advance, and then the inventor disappears. The patent gets snapped up by the government. It's the patent is a threat to capitalism. There's he dies. It's a suicide. He's suddenly has terminal cancer, and he dies 2 weeks later. After it's over and over again. Are we being paranoid, or is this actually happening?
This has happened. This has definitely happened.
Are you worried?
These types of behaviors where certain interests have felt seriously threatened and were so distorted in their response as to take a life. This has happened. And I've thought about this many, many times, and my colleagues as well, because anyone who's stepping into this you got to realize that, some people can be off balance and may feel like they have there's something that gets triggered where they feel like they have to protect their interests in a very destructive way. And so we have to consider this, soberly and practically, and not be stupid or naive about it. But at the same time, I see these types of overt suppression tactics waning. I see more openness. I see more avenues for communication, such as the service you're providing here tonight, Jimmy.
Yep.
And such as the service that'll be provided at the upcoming Contact in the Desert conference.
Right.
I see openings here because killing energy inventors is not in the best interest of our civilization. It's not in the best interest of an energy capitalist's long-term viability of their own family, their own progeny, their grandchildren, their great-grandchildren. Okay, continuing with business as usual is the same thing as strapping yourself onto a train that's headed to the cliff. Okay, we've got to make changes here. We've got to make intelligent changes. We have to start easing out of this competition model and have something more collaborative and something that is more holistically minded. Because, that day, the advent of the, not only the acknowledgement that, that we're being visited, but that it's a very obvious presence here. We're going to be faced with that very soon, I'm convinced. And we better have our act together and have some type of coherent path forward, or it may not turn out very well for us for quite some time. The biggest challenge that I see is the whole fear and separation mindedness that has held us back. We all have to deal with it, because as we spoke before, we all have our own interests at stake, and we may have spent our whole lives trying to make things just so that we can, have a little bit of material security and feed our family and all this and that. And when something comes along that is disruptive to that, we instinctively, basically go into defense mode out of our fear. That's understandable. We're wired that way, but we don't have to respond to it with violence. What we can do is we can reach out, seek other ways. We can see how there's an opportunity for everybody to participate in this some way, and it becomes now the grandest adventure that any of us can imagine, because we literally can create a world that really works, and it's healthier, it's more beautiful, and where people are not stressed out all the time worrying about who's going to get one up above them. We can actually, with free energy and the advent of a new energy era, we can be freed up to exercise the creativity that's latent in all human beings, but it generally is not very well expressed because we're doing so much mundane activity, whether because we're distracted or the type of work we're doing really isn't aligned with our dignity and our creative potential. So, I have great hope. And like I said, the young lady I was sitting next to on the plane, I see it right there. See, here's this young one who has a more advanced consciousness and a bolder vision than someone who might be sitting on tens of billions of dollars in a corporate energy empire. Okay? But yet this one is closer to why she's really here.
Sure.
And so these things, this consciousness is not going to be stopped. It's going to continue to expand because it's aligned with life. As simple as that.
Let's take some phone calls. Let's open up the phone lines. 323-825-5045. 323-825-5045. You can also Skype in Fade to Black 14. And while we are waiting for the calls to come in, John Hutchison,
yes.
was he onto something, and what happened to him?
Okay, well, John is still around. I know John. John for the longest time lived in Vancouver, British Columbia, and he lived in this very famous apartment up there that was just crammed full of all types of instrumentation that had been salvaged off of mothballed military ships and submarines and things like that. It was a real just one of the strangest experiences you can believe is knocking on his door, and John opens it up, and you literally have to like get down on your hands and knees to crawl through and under all these kind of passageways through his apartment. But he was doing some really cool experiments, especially with his what's called the Hutchinson effect, where he essentially was showing some demonstration of anti-gravity. And I saw it directly on a couple different occasions. I, saw, things that were, heavy mass objects just kind of like vibrating, and all of a sudden, boom, they shoot up into the air, and no strings and wires, that kind of thing. He was using frequencies of various sorts, and some think that even John himself uniquely creates his own field, using his own natural energy to assist this effect in some ways. But whether that's the case or not, it was always fascinating, and John always was very, very gracious as a host. And, if we, had any type of social activity, very interesting, very gentle.
Man, I would love to hang. I would love to hang with him for a night. And number one, number two, if there was ever
he's in California now.
Yeah, he is. And if there's ever a picture of a mad scientist, he's the guy. That's the picture.
Well,
hey, let's go to the phones real quick. Yeah. Hi, you're live on Fade to Black. Say hi to Joel Garbon. Who's calling?
This is Catherine Sweet from Portland. Joel, I know you from Aqua Lumen. Yeah, hi. Listen,
Hello,
I listened to this. Hey, Joel, how you doing? I so appreciate your incredibly brilliant and shiny words of really a worldview that we're so needing right now on the planet, of non-separative, embracing, and yet real clear, willing to speak with the sword of truth there. And I really appreciate everything you had to say and how the context in which you said it. A great gift, Joel.
Well, thank you, Catherine. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine. Thank you for the call.
Hey, you bet. Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Let's just keep going here. Hi, you're live on Fade to Black. Joel Garbon. Say hello to Joel. Who's calling?
Howdy, Joel. Hey, Jimmy, this is Bob from Arcadia, Ohio.
Hi, Bob.
You're a Google researcher. How you doing?
Very good, Bob. Thank you.
This is a subject that's real dear to my heart, that the biggest problem with it right now is local government. Because there's so many stories of people who went off the grid where local governments have went after them. I just kind of curious what his thoughts about that was.
Well, yeah, I think that, that is something that's been a sad fact of the government. And, of course, our government is not what we think it is. Our government, I think at one time likely did serve the people as servants, civil servants. But now it has been distorted so much by money and special interests that it no longer is that. It is something else. It's a very distorted organism that, generally speaking, does not operate at the level of the well, it's not resonating with life, as I said before. When people are trying to simply go about their lives and being sovereign in themselves, as a being, and minding their own business, you know what? That should be respected. And increasingly, our government has been very intrusive and pervasive in its surveillance and in heavy-handed tactics to try to keep people under this illusion that there is an external authority. And I don't know about you, Bob, but for me, hey, I did not give someone else authority over me. The one who has authority over me is the one who created me. And
exactly.
and that's it. Everything else is it's a permission basis. And to me when we think about what would an enlightened society on an advanced planet look like, it would be no government structure. It would be enlightened self-governance.
Yeah, it'd be the opposite of us.
Yes,
exactly.
It would be the opposite of us. And see, that is very threatening to those who want centralized control.
Sure.
Because having autonomous beings who are looking out for the collective interest rather than a selfish interest, those are free beings. And the idea of freedom is terrifying to someone who desires slavery. But see, psychologically, that slavery is simply mimicking their own slavery to a false identity, an ego that is all wrapped around this fear and scarcity and separation consciousness. It's not who any of us are, but they're enslaved to that. And so they simply are projecting that out. Sorry to go down that kind of psychological path there, but I think it's at the heart of the matter here. You know,
exactly.
Yeah.
Bob, thank you.
I
was going to say thank you for the phone call. Do you have anything else real quick?
You guys have a good night. And it's been a great show.
Thank you, Bob.
Yeah, thank you so much, Bob.
Thank you very much.
Let's go right back to the phones. Hi, you're live on Fade to Black with Joel Garbon. Say hi to Joel. Who's calling?
Hey, Joel. This is Easy Rider from Carbondale, Illinois.
Hi.
Hey, Easy. How are you?
Oh, pretty good. I'm with Jimmy. We need some politicians like you in Congress, I'm telling you. That would be awesome. Forward-thinking, enlightening people up there.
Yeah, it would be great, but it would be a short-lived career. You'd have your celebration party, and then your exit party. A couple of days later, they'd run you out of town.
Well,
no doubt.
It could be, and I appreciate that thought, and I think that there is not a need to go into public service in that way in order for the healing to come about, because really what will happen, because we don't have to tolerate the type of abuse that's going on right now if we simply collectively chose to stop making the same collective mistake. When you keep putting the same people in who aren't demonstrating courage, and they're demonstrating a sellout mentality in that, well, of course we're going to keep getting what we're asking for there. So you don't need to have someone who's working from in that system who of course would get marginalized very quickly the way things are done.
Sure, change about in many different ways. I had 2 points to bring up with you, Joel.
Sure.
I was wondering if you were familiar with the work of Lynn McTaggart. She had a book out years ago about the 0 Point Field. It was the most fascinating book I ever laid my hands on. My second point, I'd like to know, I've been thinking about it. It's somewhat of an expensive proposition. It's about $350. But there's these different systems out there where you can hook hydrogen or something that generates hydrogen into your fuel system, which supposedly 45 to 60% better in gas miles. I just wonder, there's so much stuff out there, you don't know if it's real or not, and I'm seriously interested in that, and I'd like to find out your thoughts on that, and I'll take my answers off there. Have a great night, you guys.
Thank you, Easy.
Great question, and great practical question, too. So the technology that he was just talking about, these are called onboard hydroxy generators. Essentially what they are doing, they are contained vessels that have an electrolyte in them, primarily water, a little bit of a type of salt in there, and then it has an electrolysis process going on where you're breaking down the water into a hydrogen and oxygen mixture, which is generally called hydroxy gas. Some call it Brown's gas, but it's a combustible gas. And that is then metered into the fuel line at some point, and then blends with the hydrocarbon fuel, and it burns much cleaner. The fact that you have the hydrogen in there changes the characteristics of the fuel mix and makes for a much more complete combustion. And these technologies are valid, or I guess I should say several of them that are out there are real. And it's typical that you'll hear people report somewhere from a 10% to, I think you used the range of 60%. And yeah, I mean that's kind of within the typical range that people will report. There are differences that can occur in the performance that you experience depending on the age of your car, the way the oxygen sensing algorithms are, and the onboard computer, and these types of things. So sometimes people report a much better fuel economy improvement with older model cars than they were in the newer models. But it's worth the experimentation. I mean, I myself have plunked down hundreds of dollars for these types of technologies to run on my own vehicles, and I've seen improvements. The last one that I had tried was probably 20%, somewhere in that range there, and it was real. It was easily measurable. So I encourage you to plunk down the $350 and have some fun, but do your homework first. Make sure that you get some independent testimony, and primarily you'd want to look to see if there'd been a third-party verification from a credible vetting organization that's tested it on a dynamometer or some really good standardized road testing.
Why hasn't hydrogen fuel cells taken off? I was in a program with GM, and I drove one for a couple of months. Had issues with the car. I'll tell you right now, it broke down on the freeway, and the highway patrol, once they found out it was a hydrogen fuel cell car, would not even come within 50 yards of me. They literally. I'm not kidding, Joel. I'm not kidding. But anyway, why hasn't that been perfected? And I think it's dang close, if not ready to go now. Why do they just stay away from it? We have, I think we have enough seawater out there to not worry about it. And plus, it just goes right back into the environment anyway.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, because the combustion of hydrogen in an internal combustion engine or in a fuel cell where you're doing essentially a chemical combination with oxygen, the hydrogen and oxygen, to produce current, to produce electricity, because that's what's going on in a fuel cell.
Right.
The fuel cell is not combusting the hydrogen to produce a thermal effect and move a piston. That's not what it's about. It's combining hydrogen and oxygen in a process that's the reverse of electrolysis, and it's generating electricity. So if you think about electrolysis, you got two electrodes in a beaker of water. You're putting electricity in, and that's splitting the water molecule apart into hydrogen and oxygen.
Right.
In a fuel cell, you're doing just the opposite.
Yep.
Combining the hydrogen and oxygen, getting the electric current out. Now, your question about why not? Where is it? How come we're not seeing these everywhere? I think it's primarily the expense. So these things are much better. A fuel cell is much better in a stationary installation now, where it doesn't have to worry about vibration. Think of all the wear and tear and just the mechanical forces that are present when you are driving a vehicle. I mean, you really have to have robust components to withstand the abuse that goes on when a car is driven. And up to this point, the fuel cell components themselves have been really not robust enough to withstand that, and they've been quite expensive. So, it would really increase the cost of the vehicle, so it'd be, kind of out of sight right now. But that'll change. I mean, they'll get better and better. The types of membranes and things that they're using to run these things. And you're not limited to just hydrogen. You can use natural gas in some types of fuel cells as well. So there's a lot of development activity on there. But personally, I think these will be eclipsed by some of the new technologies.
Let's take a break right here. That's a good point to stop. This is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. On the Game Changer Network, KGRA, The Planet tonight. Joel Garbon, Free Energy, 0 Point Energy, the future of mankind. That's what we're talking about tonight. If you're on hold, if you're calling in, stay right there. When I come back after the break, I'm going to tell Joel about my crazy idea of perpetual motion. And I'll disclose that to Joel when we come back after the break. Stay with us.
Despite popular opinion, reading a book will not make you smarter.
But listening to Jimmy Church will.
Attention, all Fade or Not. Studio Dome has a special deal on their SD1 Bluetooth speaker. Just go to jimmychurchradio.com, click on their banner, enter the promo code Jimmy, and you get $40 off and free shipping on the SD1. It's voice activated, comes with a USB antenna, cables, and a carry bag. Never listen to your phone, tablet, or laptop speakers ever again. It's the only way to listen to Fade to Black. That's jimmychurchradio.com, Studio Dome banner, promo code Jimmy. Go Beckley Teppy.
The station that talks the net. KGRA Radio.
This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black. May arrives soon, and with it comes another Contact in the Desert. So join me in Joshua Tree, California, for the 3rd annual Contact in the Desert Conference being held May 29th through the 31st. 2015 brings another awesome lineup of speakers, including publisher of Legendary Times, Giorgio Tsoukalos, New York Times bestselling author David Wilcock, journalist and conspiracy expert Jim Mars, former head of UFO Project for the MOD Nick Pope, investigative reporter Linda Moulton Howe, author and contactee Travis Walton, UFO historian Richard Dolan, and many more. You don't want to miss this. Fade to Black and KGRA will be there broadcasting live May 29th. Just visit contactinthedesert.com for tickets and information. That's contactinthedesert.com.
This is KJCR at jimmychurchradio.com.
Welcome back, Fade to Black, KGRA, The Planet, the Game Changer Network, bespoke radio for the masses. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, Joel Garbon is with us. Free energy, breakthrough energy, the future of mankind. That's what we're talking about. And Joel, check this out. I have this idea, and I'm a big watch guy. I don't know if you're a watch guy. Well, are you a watch guy? Do you know anything about watches?
Well, not much about it, and no, I don't wear one, Jimmy. Okay. In fact, I try to ignore time as much as possible.
Well,
it's a precious commodity.
Now, what I want you to do is imagine this. Just stay with me. And when you were growing up, you had watches that you wound up, right? You wound it up,
yes,
and then it would run for a day or two, right? Then you would have to wind it up again. The energy is stored in a mainspring, spring steel.
Yep.
Okay? No big, it doesn't take a big brain to comprehend that. We all know what it is. And then I started to think, here we have no batteries, no nothing. This watch will just run on your wrist. If you wind it every single day, it will run forever. Okay? Energy is coming out. The only energy going in is you winding it. Now, what if you made a big version of that? Remember, the second hand is always running, right? It's always running. It's always unwinding. So what if you made a big version of that, something that was 2 foot tall, 3 foot tall, and you had it, and then what is pushing the second hand, now it's obviously magnitudes larger, and that is turning a generator for your house. And that's it. That's it. So all you would do is every day or two, you or your children go outside or in the garage, whatever, go out and crank this thing and wind it up. And it's turning a generator and ungearing itself. So the generator's running at high speed. It's just reverse gearing. And then you have free power for your house forever.
Well, the principle is very interesting. As far as the way the energy balance works out for that, just because you got a mechanical device in gearing and these types of things, and then you're coupling this up to a generator. All right. So you got to look at how much energy did you put into this. So it's really the work that was done by the human, the calories expended, and that's really the energy input. Now you're not going to get more out of this type of device. You're not going to get more out than the calories that were expended by the human in winding that thing up. And when you look at that, that means at the very most you're going to get, if you had no losses from friction or anything else, all right, the most you're going to get out electrical-wise is going to be equal to the caloric expenditure of the individual who wound that up. So it's not going to yield very much electrical power, unfortunately, Jimmy. So
you just killed me.
Sorry.
So do I scrap my patent ideas?
Well, now if you can figure out how to make that watch, wind itself with 0 point energy, then you might have something.
See, I'm picturing a glass of orange juice, chug it, go outside and just crank this thing up, wind it up. How long does it take you to? But if you make this big enough, so it's 3 or 4 feet tall, it's a lot. Just imagine a huge watch in front of you, and then that's coming out, the center, and that is again unwinding. It just makes sense to me. You know what? But I haven't had any energy companies come knocking down my door and trying to kidnap my children and silence me. So you might be right.
Well, you know what? See, and this is you bring up something very pertinent here, though, and that is that there's been a lot of experimentation and enthusiasm for different types of concepts and inventions that on the surface look like, gosh, this should work, and people will spend, a lot of time, a lot of their own personal, money and resources. They might even spend a lifetime, working on something that they really feel this is going to be the game-changing mousetrap. But sometimes what happens is basic principles of physics are ignored. Or fundamental measurements are done in error, not out of any intention to deceive, but just because either fundamental principles weren't understood before they undertook the invention or experiment, or they had the improper instrumentation to take their measurements, or they misinterpreted the data themselves. And this happens a ton. It's why so often, if you just go to like YouTube and you just put in water as fuel, you'll probably get well over 1,000 different YouTube videos, maybe tens of thousands, of different people who've tinkered with, doing different type of setups to burn water in some form or fashion. And many will make very extravagant claims, about how much energy they're producing and how many miles per gallon you can get and all this and that. But the vast majority of them have made some errors. Even if they may be honest errors, but they've made errors, and they don't pass muster under rigorous verification. One of the things that new energy movement has taken on as an initiative, and it's something I've been talking about for the better part of 2 years, was to establish a recognized set of standardized testing protocols for breakthrough energy claims. And it's a type of thing that it sounds a bit mundane, but it's very important because something like this, where you have standardized testing protocols, it allows the inventor or researcher to test the device to the same standards that the verification entity who comes later uses to test the device. So if the inventor finds that he's got errors by using proper technique right out of the gate, it doesn't waste his time. And when the vetters come and they check it, they're comparing apples to apples instead of apples to oranges. Well, if it passes the gate when the verification entity comes in, now you got something that's investor ready because it's been qualified, it's been vetted against some very robust, rigorous techniques and procedures. And that would have very high value to this field, because suddenly what you'd see is that instead of Googling water as fuel and getting 10,000 hits, you would get maybe 3, but they would all be really, they'd be the diamonds,
right?
Instead of the dirt,
right?
And because so much time has been wasted and resources expended in chasing down the dogs, we're looking for the eagles. And so I hardly ever even watch a YouTube video just based on a claim.
I watch him. I watch him by the ton. Let's go back to the phones. Hi, you're live on Fade to Black, Dino. Say hi to Joel.
Good evening, Jimmy. Joel, this fits right in what you were just saying with the type of thing I want to ask. You're speaking my language when we can talk about a standardization of results so that we can find out what works. But I want to go beyond that. And we touched on this earlier in the show, that I think that simplicity is the way to go with energy. I've driven, I don't have the money to buy one, but a BMW i3, and the thing just tears out, and it's beautiful, and all the driving experiences there and more, and the Tesla. But it seems like only people like Branson and the Tesla guy that runs it,
Musk.
Elon Musk.
Yeah, Musk. Yeah, Musk are willing to take. They have enough money and enough spirit to take these risks. So what's holding us back? I mean, I'm not a physics major, but as a hobbyist of Tesla, and people are believing that we have things beyond what he has. Then why aren't his files being released? So it boils down to, instead of adding a fuel cell to a car or putting a new type of fuel, I think we need fewer moving parts like on an electric car. We need to be able to do it ourselves. Now, that is what I want to ask you. I was trained a bit by Jesuits, too. They had black chips.
Yeah, Dino, what's the question?
Well, it's a whole area that they had black ships that went to Japan and were hiding technology. Is this technology that you've talked about tonight, is a lot of it being hidden? And is it the fact that if we make it more simple to power ourselves, that it takes away the profit motive? And does that we need to keep people working? And I'm wondering if we can have these new forms of energy, less polluting, save the planet, make it cheaper for everybody, and still not have the whole world economy fall apart. What do you think about that?
Oh, that's a great question.
Great question,
Thank you, Dino.
Great question, and thank you for your insight on that. Okay, so the first part of this, have these technologies been held back? Yes. Are there factions, human factions on this planet that has exotic energy technologies that are very, very high gain? Yes. Have a lot of those been funded with taxpayer dollars but never saw a social benefit? Yes. They've also been financed by a lot of other things, some of the seedier human activities, drug trafficking, sex slavery, on and on. A lot of financial shenanigans, financial bubbles bursting and money essentially just disappearing down a black hole. Okay, all of those things have played their part in this. Now, would having a simple technology, like I mentioned, this energy chip earlier, where it just simply is taking energy from the environment, because there's heat always present in the environment, there's molecular motion, and it is stimulating the materials in that chip to cause a free flow and free continuous flow of electrons. So you got no moving parts. It's a simple chip. It's producing electricity. You don't need any fuels. You don't need anything. It's just using the readily and free available energy of the environment to produce the electricity. Okay, very simple, elegant thing, and it's real. Yeah, I've seen this. So would that be disruptive? Well, yeah, it would be disruptive. Does that mean that it will cause the economy to crash, including for those who are presently employed in the energy economy? No, it doesn't have to mean that, because what you will find is that whenever you have a technological leap, the economy expands. Look what happened. When I first came out of college, and I worked in an office for a large multinational chemical company. There were probably 6 typists in the secretarial pool. All right. When word processing software came out, suddenly everyone was doing their own typing. All right. But what happened to those secretaries and typists? Well, they got redeployed as network, administrators and troubleshooters, and now they're teaching, how to do word processing, and now Microsoft, builds a giant complex, and now you got, thousands of people employed, and then you got all these other, complementary and auxiliary, folks, and I mean, millions and millions of people get employed in a whole new, technological revolution, and it expands the economy. It would be no different with the advent of a breakthrough energy era, because now you would have the retrofit of every vehicle on this planet. Think of the billions of vehicles there are that would need to be retrofitted. You'd have all these industrial applications, all these residential applications that are burning dirty fuel. All of those would either be retrofitted or have new technology. You have amazing opportunities to recycle materials all over the planet, to mine landfills, to do environmental remediation. You'd be able to use this very cheap energy to just cause all kinds of untold changes on the world that would improve things. And there's all kinds of things we couldn't even think of right now that would arise because people would be employing their creative genius to come up with ever newer applications and new business startups in this. So we would see a whole new economic boom come from this. So it would lift all the boats. There would be some short-term displacements, but those would get redeployed, and it would end up lifting up the boat at large.
Joel Garbon for president, 2016. I'm your campaign manager. Let's go back to the phones. Hi, you're live on Fade to Black. Say hi to Joel Garbon.
Hi, Joel Garbon. This is Mark from Oregon.
Hi, Mark.
Hi. It just seems to me that any place that there's an imbalance or a difference in electrical charges, all matter interacts, and it attracts or repels or it's neutral to it. That any time you have a chance to affect another substance at the correct frequency, because all matter is energy, and all energy is the same thing across the spectrum. It's really a matter of frequency. And so when I see a device like a water tube that's creating electrolysis and then is enhanced by broadcasting the correct radio frequency to make that electrolysis of hydrogen work much faster, isn't it really possible across the table of elements, using the same theory, to extract energy from almost anything?
Yeah, it's a good question, because I think what you had to say about frequency absolutely is the case, and whether it makes practical sense to apply that across the whole periodic table of elements or not, well, I mean, if you think about it, why would you need to? If all you need to do is use resonant frequencies to split water, why would you need to even go further than that? Or maybe you could use it to split up waste, like toxic streams or sewage sludge or any number of things that we consider problem pollution streams. Use it to break that stuff up. But why would you even need to take it into the heavy metals or into the uranium, plutonium, or whatever, unless you were going to use it to actually break it apart into simpler non-radioactive compounds, things like that. But I think we would only need to target a very few elements or few compounds such as water to have such a high gain. It's kind of like the 80-20 rule. You target a little bit, and there you got most of the bang for the buck, and then the other part are more marginal benefits.
Thank you for
Great question.
Thank you for the call, man.
Joel, I can tell you why I think that it's important across the table of elements, though, is because it literally would lead to replicating matter and processing that out into other forms of matter when we talk about the rarity of certain substances that are here.
Okay, I see.
I mean, literally straight out of Star Trek.
Oh, I got you. Okay, like a replicator.
Atomic.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I got you.
And also, one more point. Dino touched upon the economics, and I have to disagree with you, Joel. I actually think that it will affect the economy, and I think that all of our mechanizations and our technology is leading us to a path where it's going to be the abolition of work as we know it. It's going to free humanity from labor, and we'll be able to focus on a whole bunch of other stuff. There'll still be some work to be done, but we're going to have to completely mitigate our entire social system to make sure that everybody has what they need to live, because they won't be necessary in the labor force. And I just wanted to throw that out there to you.
That's a great point, and that is actually very coherent with my vision here. I was articulating parts of these on a timeline. So there's a short-term timeline, and that's where you have people still being deployed in work and creating new businesses and all these. That's the more short-term time frame. But ultimately, we would be able to go to a society like what you're speaking of, where we're freed up for maybe much more purely creative pursuits, because all of the basic necessities of life are taken care of. Some might call that a world that they think would cause a lot of problems, because the human nature would simply become lazy and degenerate. But I like to think that there'd be a concurrent evolution of technology and human consciousness. So we become wiser and wiser about our choices with what we do with this amazing technology.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you very much, Joel, and thank you, Jimmy.
You got it, Mark.
Great call.
Yeah, excellent call. Excellent call. As we wind down here, Joel, I've got to go with the $1 million question, and we we have about 5 minutes left. And thank you for hanging late, man. It's great.
This is so fun. I love this.
Isn't it the best? We have the best audience in the entire world right here on this show. The absolute best. If you were a gambling man, right, and you're going to Vegas, as far as breakthrough power goes, what's it going to be in the next few years? Where's it going to come from?
Okay, so I think that within 2 to 3 years, we're going to see the first industrial installations of a cold fusion energy generating device, and it'll start in an industrial setting. And why that's the case is because the inventor and the company will want some type of application where it's much lower risk, where you have technical personnel available around the clock, and where the 24/7 power output capability is fully utilized in the industrial process. That would be the most highly leveraged way to both take advantage of what the technology has to offer and help guarantee that any maintenance or observations, safety, all of these types of things, new engineering learnings on how to refine this, that you're much better to do that in an industrial setting. So I definitely think it's going to go there first. Then it'll go to commercial settings, smaller, light manufacturing, things like that, businesses that have, maybe even at like a university setting where they have round-the-clock, power requirements for boilers and things like that. Because remember that the first applications of these will be for heating water, okay, because that is a huge appetite for energy is just to boil water.
Just turbines.
That's probably the commercial's probably 5 years out.
Right.
Residential is going to come down after that because the risk is much higher at the residential level, and it would only take one accident in one home to prematurely squash this whole thing. And we're getting a lot smarter about this. We don't want sabotage or any type of opportunity for the naysayers or the vested interest to just say, "See, I told you this thing is just going to hurt people and it's way too hazardous and all that." Because we can foresee that's going to be part of the resistance that's applied against this.
Now, with our audience, they're going to go and start researching tonight, tomorrow. You're going to get email. Yep. They're all going to go to breakthroughpower.net. Start heading to your website and stuff. Where are you going to point? I want you to point them in a direction. Is there a researcher that you think they should go and learn about and who is impressing you the most right now? And, of course, you have your book, Breakthrough Power, but where else can they go and start to research this?
Yeah, I mean, if they go to newenergymovement.org, that's a great place to start. That's the website for my organization, New Energy Movement. There's lots of like videos and things, other resource references that people can get started to start going down this path of getting educated and seeing that there is coherence in this vision and that everyone has a stake in the outcome. So that's where I would start. And then there's other things that you'll see even on the homepage. If you want no further than the homepage of newenergymovement.org, you've got tons of things right there.
I have to thank you for coming on. And just an incredible show tonight. This show is always, Joel, this show is about learning. And I sit and I'm learning along with the audience. I'm sitting right next to you and I'm listening to this tonight, and that's exactly what this show is about, is to do that. And you really took us on a journey tonight. And I mean, it happens every night on the show. We get really lucky. Yeah. But tonight was exceptional, man. I just got to say, it was just a real. It was fun too. That's the other thing.
Oh, this has been great fun, Jimmy. You've been a delightful host, and you really know how to pull out the good stuff. And your audience and the folks calling in, I really appreciate that you even cared to listen and to offer your insights and your good questions.
We've got to do it again really soon, because some of the other things that and that goes without running with a script, which is what I don't do. Sure. I wanted to talk about nuclear waste. I wanted to talk about nuclear power plants today and what is the future in that, or is there? Are we just going to continue to close them down? But there's all of that aspect, and then with cold fusion and the power and the waste and so forth. There's so much more to this, and we just didn't have the time, and that's the beauty of a show like this, because we just blasted through 2.5 hours like it was nothing. So that's.
Well, I'd love to tell you an amazing story about a water discovery as well, maybe next time.
Oh, and, man.
Yeah, that in itself could be many shows, but
we'll
anyway.
We'll do it again. So maybe we can squeeze in some time before Contact in the Desert, and we'll do it again.
That'd be great. Thank you, Jimmy.
Thank you so much, Joel. All the best, man. And I'll talk to you next week, but then I'll see you at Contact in the Desert, too, as well. Looking forward to it.
Okay, take care.
Thank you. Joel Garbon. Joel Garbon for President. How'd you like that, Fadernauts? Huh? That's exactly what I'm talking about, and I really mean this. For all of you new listeners tonight, that is what just happened happens every night on this show. And that's why you need to just come by, hang out. Follow us on Twitter. I have no idea how many tweets went through tonight. We have the chat room over at Spreaker. We have the chat room over at KGRA, The Planet. and just come over and hang out. You're going to learn something. You're going to wake up tomorrow and be happy that the sun is coming up, because you're just going to go through a day of discovery and learning. But tonight is exactly what this show is about. I want to thank all of the callers who called in tonight. Thank you, everybody. Didn't get to everybody. I tried to. But again, thank you for the calls. Thank you, Joel. What an incredible show. I got to tell you, I'm wrapping up right now, and this is one of those shows where I am going to like walk around the studio here on my way to the car like 6 inches off the ground. You know, that's what it's about. I just feel great. What a great show. Thank you, Joel. Joel Garbon. You can go through, go to his website, Breakthrough Power, breakthroughpower.net, www.breakthroughpower.net. Fade to Black's executive producers, Rita Kamarian. Shows produced by Hilton J. Paulman, Mark D. Kovar, LJ3, Renee, Mark Dunbar, and Jonas. Announcers are Steve Harder, Gene Vito, and Mark D. Kovar. Fady by Dale. Webmaster is Method of Signaling. Music is this guy right here, Doug Aldrich. Intro, Spaceboy. SpaceboyMusic.com. Fade to Black is produced by KJCR for the Game Changer Network. KGRA, the planet 3 years young. Yeah, man. Tomorrow night, Spencer Cross. Monoatomic Gold and the Great Pyramid of Giza. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. I want everybody to be safe. See ya.